Is everything okay at your end?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
evening, everyone.
Can you please
Everyone.
come on the
Yeah,
camera when you speak?
yeah, sure.
Please. Yeah. This is all recorded. Thank you.
Am I visible?
He's the man behind. He's the man behind this whole thing. You can have a look, Dr. Rahman.
Hello, sir.
He's the boy. Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to our session 5 of the Global Advanced Certification Program on Strategic Research Collaboration and Communication for Emerging Researchers in LMICs and the International Workshop Series jointly organized by the Global Consortium of Global Health Leaders, Actors, Leaders and Thinkers, and the Bangladesh Institute of Innovative Health Research. We are honored to bring you two back-to-back panel discussions today, engaging with globally renowned thought leaders who are reimagining the future of public health through policy, research, strategic communications, and system-level collaboration with us. Professor Maheswar Satpathy, a globally respected academic leader and the founder and CEO of Global Alt, will moderate both sessions. Global Consortium of Global Health Actors, Leaders and Thinkers, Global Alt, operates under the Global Health Leadership by Global South Initiative, a flagship project of the Global Health Forum. The consortium brings together global health experts, researchers, practitioners, and policymakers, especially from developing and underrepresented regions, to collaborate on transformative research that drives equity and systemic change in health. Bangladesh Institute of Innovative Health Research is a non-profit student-led research organization that promotes research culture among undergrad and graduate students and early career researchers. Nearly 40 students contribute as research assistants and over 10 serve in core managerial roles. BIHR is actively conducting public health research and regularly organizing training, workshops, and seminars to build capacity among emerging scholars. So some ground rules for our session attendees. Please stay muted during the session unless you are invited to speak. You can raise your hand, we can invite you to speak. And use the Q&A for any questions that arise during the session, and your attendance form will be uh, provided in the chat box during any time in the session. So please be attentive to give your attendance. So we now begin our panel discussion 1, titled Envisioning One Health, Public Health for Australasia, International Collaboration, Strategic Communications for Young Researchers and Organizational Governance at International Public Health Associations. Joining us today, Professor Dr. Mohammad Aziz Rahman, Professor of Public Health, Federation University, Australia, and Vice President, Public Health Association of Australia. Moderated by Professor Maheshwar Satpathy, who is a world-renowned leader in One Health, global health, planetary health, brain and mental health. He is much sought after expert in epidemiology, health emergencies, and implementation science and health innovation using the power of emerging and futuristic technologies such as AI, machine learning, LLM, and generative AI, and geospatial information systems, science and technologies, and remote sensing. He builds on his core areas of expertise in cognitive and computational neuroscience, psychology, and global health to benefit the humanity. His sustained engagement with UN Sustainable Development Goals and ethics in the broader areas of public policy has led to holistic societal transformations in various LMICs. Professor Satpathy has a humble age index of 78 and cumulative citations over 153,000 plus. He has published extensively 285 plus peer-reviewed scientific articles and book chapters in journals of global repute, notably in Nature, Science, The Lancet, NEJM, JAMA, PMJ, etc. Professor Satpathy has offered keynotes and invited talks at more than 200 top international conferences and global congresses in the past 20 years. He has an impressive all-metric science score of 68,255, exemplifying the large-scale social impact driven by their work. Professor Satpathy is currently a research fellow, research professor at the Institute for Global Health and UCL Global Business School for Health of University College, London, UK, and also is a substantive faculty member at Utkal University, Bhubaneswar, India. He is the director and lead of Center of Excellence in Environment, Climate Change and Public Health and Policy, a joint initiative of Government of India and Odisha since 2023. In addition, he is also coordinating the Center of Excellence in Governance and Public Policy. At this point, may I invite Professor Satpathy to introduce our eminent guest and begin the session as usual. Professor Satpathy, over to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Faisal, such a brilliant and generous introduction of mine. So today's spotlight is on Professor Aziz. So he is very Aziz to us. So let's start. So Professor Muhammad Aziz Rahman, panelist number 1 for today's session, is Professor of Public Health, Federation University Australia, and Vice President, Australian Public Health Association. Professor Dr. Muhammad Aziz Rahman is a globally recognized public health researcher, a medical doctor, and an experienced academic. Professor Rahman has worked in public health research and teaching for over 20 years in Australian and international settings. He has published over 200 research papers in multidisciplinary journals with an impressive H-index of 72 and an over 113,000 citations. Due to his extraordinary track record of research citations, he has been ranked among the world's top 2% of scientists for the last 5 years. He is currently working as the research advisor and health of public health at Federation University Australia. He is also the Vice President of the Public Health Association of Australia. Therefore, probably one of the most fitting persons to be in today's panel. He has held extensive leadership roles in academia, including Head of Public Health, Associate Dean of Research and Research Advisor, Chair of the Professoriate Committee, and Member of the Academic Board at Federation University Australia for the past 6 years. He has a proven track record of developing world-class research programs through multi-country collaboration, securing over $13 million in research funding, which is a huge amount of money if you count it. Then additionally, he has also built dynamic partnerships between academia, industry, and government, and he has mentored over 30 higher degree research students, means PhD students and masters by research, contributing to the development of the next generation of healthcare leaders. Currently, he holds leadership roles in the Public Health Association of Australia, PHAA, as the Vice President Development and convener of the Health Promotion Special Interest Group. He has also served as a board member of the Council of Academic Public Health Institutions Australasia, CAPHIA, and as chair of the Academic Development Working Group. He is passionate about transforming academic institutions into globally competitive centers of excellence. He strives to foster innovative curricula and interdisciplinary collaboration to advance health sciences, education, and research, while promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in both academic and healthcare settings. So with this very brief and humble introduction of Professor Rahman, I request Professor Rahman to please do the honor of giving the keynote speech, and then it will be followed by the panel discussion. So Professor Rahman, the floor is all yours, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Master. So that's really great. I'm really pleased, and I would like to acknowledge really all of you to attend this session. And at first, I must acknowledge the leadership of Professor Maheswar to organize and to have this initiative to really improve and build the capacity of all the people around the world and who are attending this thing. And I'd also like to thank both organizations who have really supported in doing this thing. So what I'm going to do this thing, and thank you very much for the really kind introduction. What I'm going to share today is really what I have done and what I have learned. And if that helps you to gain some knowledge, what I'm going to share. Hopefully my presentation is visible to you. Okay, so among all of these things, because I know I have very limited amount of time and Maheswar is really strict on time, so I'll try to stick with this time limit of 30 minutes. So I thought that I will focus only on one component that is about collaboration. And I'm pretty sure that if you understand, in the meantime, you have done a number of sessions. And it is really important to focus on collaboration, either you think locally or you think globally. So what I'll try to do is really share some examples, what I have learned through my research, my experience, and I'll try to give some tips if that helps you. So before I go to collaboration, and as you have seen from the introduction, I know probably you are coming from multidisciplinary background. So I'll focus mainly on my expertise is public health. So before I go to collaboration, I think it would be really good thing to look at is about to understand about your motivation for doing the research, because at the bottom that is the main thing. Why do you want to do research, or why do you want to be involved in research if you have not been involved in the meantime? So can I request you, so you will find 2 or 3 quiz within my presentation. Can I request all of you to join this quiz and quickly respond to these things? So I really want to know who are these people who are on board today. So what is your main motivation? And you can select only one motivation. I know that that could be some interlap, but I want to know from you, what is the main driver? Why do you want to do research? Because eventually that will drive you to go ahead and to be committed about this. So let's see. I will allow probably a minute for you to join and then give the response.
So participants, please quickly go to slido.com and put this ID and attend the survey immediately, please.
Or you can scan you can also scan the QR code.
Yes, perfectly. Please be quick so that Professor Rahman can continue his session. Just want to scope in about your motivation and main motivation of joining this meeting and even involved in research. Okay. Most people are saying career progression, then other people are saying contributing to the discipline. Okay, let's see. Okay, most people want to contribute to discipline. Okay, good. Then quick, please be quick. Okay, we'll allow them 2 minutes and then we'll see.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's see. It's changing.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Try to be honest in your response.
Yes. There is nothing right or wrong about it.
Yes, there's nothing right or wrong. You may have different drive behind this. So I really need to know who are these people and what is the main drive.
Okay, people, you have 145 people here, and only 24 have filled the poll. Please go faster and fill the poll. Okay, do not skip it. That will be very interesting to see on the screen, like what are your motivations, so that we can also support you and mentor you according to your motivation. Okay, Dr. Rahman, please share the slide later of the results of the Slido with us, so that we can.
I'll share all of my slides. Let's say 35 people have responded so far. I'll give another minute or so.
Yep. Okay, please be quick. It just takes a click. Please be fast. Okay, close to 1/3 of the people have participated in the poll so far, and most people want career progression. Okay, that's in fact actually one of the major motivations.
I'll stop at the number of 50, so I'm just waiting for another 3 people. Let's see, and then I'll stop. Okay, so far, if I even check at this stage, about 50 people I can see that have responded. So I can see the career progression is really on the top. So I understand it is really important for you to focus on your career, because if you do research and then whatever the career that you are focusing on, either you are working and you are thinking, okay, you need to apply for promotion. So really you can progress, and then you need to be active in research. So I can see most of you are really thinking of career progression. So I got the message. and definitely impact on the population and contributing to the discipline. All of us want to do this thing, but the primary motivation is you want to progress in your career. I got the message. Thank you. Okay, now, okay, you want to progress in research. I understand this. You want to progress because you need to get promotion, you want to progress in your career, or you want to move from your bachelor to master's, master's to PhD, or postdoc, or whatever it is. Now, how can you be involved in research project? So that is really my thinking. I think it is really important for you at first to get yourself educated and get yourself qualified. Now, you may think of, oh, what does that mean? The first thing is I have seen people who come to me and say, oh, I want to do research. And I have done this research workshop for 3 days, 5 days, 1 month, 2 months. So that person probably is an undergrad student. He doesn't have any qualification of research. He has gone through different PD type of workshops or different days of workshop. So that I term them as get yourself educated. But it's also important to get yourself qualified. Either you do master's or you do bachelor, whatever it is, that is giving you the solid research background. It is important to do so. And then you really need to think of what is an important contemporary issue that you want to focus of public health concern. If I mentioned about just focusing on public health, there are thousands of topics of public health. And you really need to think of which one is really important and which matches with your interests, because that is really important. Or what Professor Maheswar want or what I want, it doesn't matter. It really matters what you want. And what you are thinking is really important for you to focus on, because that will drive you further. Otherwise, you really struggle. Oh, I really want to do research on tobacco because Professor this wants. Then you will not feel that much interested, rather than if you think, oh, I'm really interested to work on mental health because I have seen the challenges around me, or I'm facing these challenges and I want to contribute to this thing. So it's really important that you think of a contemporary and important public health issue that matches with your interest. And then what I will suggest you choose an experienced mentor, because that mentor will guide you to the next step. So the first thing that you need to do is get yourself educated and qualified, select a topic, and then choose an experienced mentor. Very simple trick that I have told you. Very simple magic, and then you need to progress. Okay? So now you got the research qualification, you got the topic, you got a mentor. Now, today's topic, I want to focus on collaboration. So my next question is, what do we need to conduct a research project? If I want to do a research project, what are the things that you are thinking that you need? Okay, I'm opening up this poll for another 2 minutes. Let's see. What do you think? What do you need to conduct a research project? I want to do a research project. Okay, I understand. Then what do you need? You need to type.
Please go quickly to the Slido and fill the poll. Not waste time. Okay. Only 3 participants out of 154. Please show up some initiative.
Data concept, address a research question. I don't know what this number is. I should.
Okay. Please be fast. Okay, go quickly.
Okay, interesting. Literature review, address a research question, increase knowledge, concept, like-minded people, right direction, funding, team. Yes. Yep. Team aligned with on common interests, research question, expertise, permission, resource, communication, friendly mentorship, smart objective and funding, collaboration, ethics approval, funding on research topic in LMIC, guidance. Okay. Clear vision of gaps to be filled, expert support, collaboration, understand the topic. tools. Analysis plan.
Be quick and prompt, please. Okay, only 43 have filled. It's very disappointing. Please participate more. Please be more industrious and resourceful in terms of your participation. You have to be very participatory. It's an interesting poll going on. I think the responses are very interesting.
Resources,
okay.
Okay, if I see the main green that's highlighted, so most of the people really focus on funding, collaboration, reliable data, right direction, resource, right research question, and all of these things. Thank you very much for participation. It's really great. It's really great to know that you have thought what are the things that you need to do the research to do a research project. Really appreciate all of your response. Thank you very much.
Let it be
Now,
60, then we can close.
Yes. So if you think of what you need to conduct a public health research, exactly what you have mentioned about, you need to have expertise. Yes, you need to have expertise. You need to have a team. You need to have resources. You need to have a very good communication. Really, you see, I already know your responses. You have exactly mentioned what is really needed. You need to have a timeline. No one has mentioned about the timeline. It is really important that if you don't have a timeline, you can think of research project. It can go for 6 months. If you don't have a timeline, it may go for 6 years. So you need to have a timeline. It's really critical. And many of you have mentioned about funding. Okay. So if you think of the broader concept, these are the important things that you need to think of. Okay. Now, thinking of your situation, when I'm talking all of this and when I'm going through the presentation, always try to reflect back on your situation in your context. What are the things that you are lacking? What are the things that you need to improve? Okay. So if I think of these are the things that you need to do. Now I'm trying to show you some attributes. Now check yourself whether you meet all of these essential components to do research. At first, as I had mentioned, okay, are you thinking of an important contemporary issue? If I think of this thing, oh, I want to do a research on tobacco. I'll give lots of examples of tobacco because based on my expertise, and I also tell to my students, you will be really bored of hearing examples of tobacco. Now, if you think of, I want to do a tobacco research, I want to know really whether smoking causes heart disease or not. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. But what is new here? We already know this thing. What is the thing that you want to do? Oh, I'm really interested to know about vaping among adolescents and whether they are getting the heart disease. Oh, well, that seems interesting because vaping is a new issue. You are focusing on adolescent and you are thinking of something else. So you really need to think of what is the important topic that you have passionate on this, and then what is the research question that you need to think of this topic. Then you also need to think of your commitment. Are you committed to do that research? Next thing, you need to be proactive. It is because if you want to do research, you will do lots of things based on, say, for example, if you are doing a research based on your qualification requirement as part of MPH, there's a requirement. You have to do this thing, right? I'm not talking about this requirement. I'm saying whether you are proactive. It doesn't matter. I'm really busy in teaching. I'm really busy in public health program, but I want to do research. You need to be proactive to do this thing. And then you need to dedicate that extra time. I hear lots of things from my staff, even at my university, lots of stuff, and they are doing teaching, and they're saying, oh, I don't get any time. I said, okay, you need to find the time, you need to dedicate extra time. It will not happen. No one is going to tell you, okay, next 3 months, relax and just do research. It's not going to happen. And if you need to improve your profile, you need to find that time. It could be an extra time. You need to sacrifice your family time, and then you need to find this extra time. It's important to have this communication. And I will talk a bit more about the communication. It's really important how you are doing this thing. You also need to be ready to share the expertise. And it is really important. And what Maheswar is doing through this platform and through all of this session, really bringing us, and then we are sharing our expertise. So it's really important that if you want to do research, we need to share the expertise. And we also need to share the resource. It's not possible to do, you don't have all the resources in your hand to do the research. I will give you some examples where I did not have all the resources in my hand. But when we work in collaboration, then we share the expertise, we share the resource, and in that way, big things happen, okay? Then what we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, we have learned, if I give an example from public health issues, it really showed there's no border. The problem is global, and multidisciplinary people need to work together to address this thing. It was not only the health science people, really multidisciplinary people came together to address this issue. So is it not the right time for us to think of collaborating to advance our global communities? So whatever the field that you are working on, you really need to think of how it is, you could work in a very small setting, but you need to think of how you're going to contribute to the global situation. And the situation that you are thinking, say, for example, I was born in Bangladesh, in the rural area, the challenges that the people are facing in terms of healthcare access, health-seeking behavior. When I came to Australia about 20 years ago, I thought, oh, I don't expect this thing in Australia being a developed country, but the situation and the problems and those determinants of health, the same thing they are facing. Being in a developed country, they are also facing different challenges, but some of the issues are really common, okay? So it's really important that you need to think global. Now, let me give you a real life example. Now, I have said lots of theories, lots of issues. Now, let me give you an example. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, when the academic progress, research progress, professional progress, everything was in halt, and we wanted to make it right, but it was really challenging to do so, right? So that time really sparked in this example, what I have done, I became really productive in global collaboration during that time when the borders were closed, during that time when everyone was depressed, during that time when there was uncertainty. At that time, my global collaboration sparked, and that is the example that I'm going to share with you to motivate you really it is possible to do. So what I have done, what I have mentioned to you, you need to identify a contemporary hot topic about this issue. So what I did at the time, and I live in Melbourne, Melbourne was the longest time that we suffered in the lockdown situation in the world. We have spent lots of days within this restriction, okay? So at that time, everyone was thinking, oh, we don't know really what's going to happen, uncertainty, all of this. Then we said, okay, so this is the issue that is really impacting on all of us about this psychological impact that we are having. So why don't I look at this psychological impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the community people? And that is the thing, that was the topic at that time. I'm pretty sure that there was not that much research. So that is the thing I thought, okay, let's look at the psychological distress, fear of COVID-19, because everyone was looking at different issues and sources and how they are coping. I tried to understand about this issue. And as you can understand, when the pandemic started at 2020, there was really limited literature. Some of the literature was coming from China when the COVID started there. So I wanted to know really what is the extent and what are the factors that's happening. And I wanted to start this thing from the local. So that is the local collaboration, because that I have the capacity to work in the local situation. Then I brought some of the researchers who came on board as a team to work together, and they have this common interest. Yes, it's important to focus on this thing. Let's work together. Let's start working collaboratively from the local setting. So remember all of the examples that I'm giving, and that is the tips that I'm going to share later on, how you should start collaboration. So very briefly about this thing, what we have done, those who know about the research method, we did a survey. We selected the people who are over 18 years of age who can respond to online. We have selected people from community settings and healthcare settings. We did an online survey. We created the survey questionnaire, shared this thing in the social media. We asked people about different questions about this thing. I'm not going into the details of this thing, but this is a simple thing that we have done. And it did not have any funding, because at that time it is important to get the evidence, okay? We did not have any funding. We did not have time to apply for a grant. And then we thought that, okay, we can do this thing. Even in the lockdown situation, we don't need to go anywhere, but we can use this method to address and to get the evidence. And that is the way that we have done. So what we have done, the first thing, as I mentioned, starting collaboration locally. And what we have done after doing that research, the first thing that we have done in the 6 months time, we got this paper published. And we published this thing in the Q1 journal. So that is the evidence that we generated. So within 6 months time of our study that we started, because it was a hot topic, the journal really accepted this thing with very few minor revision, and it was accepted and we published this thing. And then we also thought, okay, That is the thing. Why don't we use the tool and do the psychometric analysis? Those who don't understand psychometric analysis, forget about this thing. But we also analyze that tool to publish another paper. So that is the thing that we have done. Finished that research and went for publication. So in our study that we have found, most of the people responded, those are from metropolitan region. Then we thought, okay, why don't you do this in the regional settings? Then we went to the regional settings, replicate the same method and did the study. And the bottom line is, whatever the research that I do, I try to publish this thing. In my total career, I really regret for only for few projects where I have not published. Otherwise, I always try to publish. So that is the thing that we have done. Okay, went to the regional settings of Australia and publish using the same method. Then I was thinking, okay, that is the situation that's happening in Australia, and the situation is also happening globally. Why don't I go globally to look for this thing? And border was closed, and there was no opportunity to travel. So I started looking for collaborators. I already have some international collaborators, and then I used the snowball sampling. Okay, you know someone. Okay, let's go and do this thing. Then we started going globally. So before I went globally, so what I have done, did the research locally with local collaboration, published that, and after publication, now coming to the communication. So I'm giving you some tips on my talk, okay? So the next thing that I have thought, it's important to tell people, because the committee people participated, what does that mean? Probably they don't read the journal paper. I have published this thing for the researchers. The committee people who participated in that research, they don't read the research paper, okay? So I need to go to them and publish in the very simple language so that they understand. So giving back to the community so they can understand. It's really important that we need to go back to the research people and then tell them in plain language what does that mean. So what I've done, I published in the newsroom article starting from Federation University. I was also interviewed by ABC Radio here. I also tried to talk about different issues. The next thing that I thought about the global collaboration. And then in that way, we went to the 17 countries, more than 8,500 people participated in that global project. And I am not going in the details of this global project. What I have done, I went to all the collaborators and I mentioned, do you have that interest? Do you think that you really need that evidence? Yes, we need this thing. The first thing I said, I don't have any funding. But what I can do, this is the study that we have done in Australia. I want you to follow the same method and do it here. Is it possible? Do you have that interest? Yes, we have the mutual interest. Then I said, okay, you need to have the local ethics approval. And then I gave them the timeline to get this thing within this timeline. If we can fulfill within this timeline, that's fine. Go ahead and let's do this thing. If not, that's okay. We can do another research later on. In that way, with the timeline, with this control period, we have done this study and finished this thing with 17 countries. And after that, what I have done in Australian study, I have published the same thing that I have done in global studies. Then I published this study in with the global population, and we published the second. Sorry, where did that go? And we published the second study with the global studies. So there are two studies that we have published with the global. Now I have done my job. Then I went to the local collaborators for each of these 17 countries, and I mentioned, look, we have done the global project. We have done the global publication. Now it's your turn. Use your country data and publish this thing. And I will guide you. This is the same example that you can follow, and we can help you in whatever the help that you need. In that way, we started, before I go to this thing, again, communication. After we publish, we communicated. Again, the plain, simple language. I also participated in some of the local interviews in the radios. And then publication started coming from different countries, from Bangladesh, from Malaysia, from Hong Kong, from Germany, from Kuwait, from Saudi Arabia, from United Arab Emirates. So within 12 months, we got 12 publications without a single penny. So many of you have mentioned, yes, it's important to have funding, but within this challenging situation, during that pandemic, post-pandemic, everyone is facing the financial challenges. Now, you may think about, really, we don't have any funding, and without funding, we can't do any research. Yes, you can do research. This is the example. And I have presented this thing in different international forums to motivate people. Look, yes, it's important to get the funding, but funding is not the barrier for you to be productive. You can do global collaboration, you can do research publication, you can do research without any funding support. So remember this example that is possible to do. Now, I'm trying to give you some tips that I have learned through this global collaboration. So what are the strategies that I have learned from this? strategies for successful completion, I divide this thing into 3 phases: plan, run, and compile. So during the planning phase, it is really important to have the research conceptualization, forming the research team, developing the research proposal, obtaining ethics approval. So someone and some team need to take the lead to do this planning, the main work that you need to do. Then during the running of this project, you need to engage the collaborator, monitor and update the progress, enhance data collection plan, sending the reminder. So you need to do all of these things. And if you think of this forum, this session, this certificate course, then that is the thing that Maheswar has planned. Think of this thing, lots of planning that he has done, and then he went to involve all the collaborators, brought all the participants and did this thing. Same thing will happen for any research project. And then once you get this thing, it is not necessary that you need to do this thing. And some of our collaborators, they said, oh, we don't have any expertise for data analysis. I said, okay, we can provide you help on this thing, because sharing the resources, sharing the expertise, it's not necessary that you need to have all of this expertise there. Otherwise, you don't need any collaboration because you are really self-sufficient. It doesn't happen in real life. So what we have done, okay, we got this thing. Who have expertise? Okay, they will do the data. So who can have some literature review? Okay, you do this thing. Then we have developed a team who will work on the drafting the manuscript, incorporating the feedback, and then proceed with the publication. So you need to have a meticulous way to go ahead with each of these steps. After doing this thing, so that's about the pandemic situation. We have done about 17 countries. During the post-pandemic situation, I work at the university. University is also facing the challenges. Student number has decreased. There are financial issues and challenges. And I can see my colleagues are facing lots of issues. There are lots of redundancy, job loss, and all of this. Then I thought that why don't I look at health and well-being of the staff who are working at the universities? And the same situation is happening all over the world. So then I focus on the post-pandemic situation, looking at the staff now. So previous study was focusing on the community people, healthcare workers. Now we focus at the staff who are working at the universities. And again, for this second global study, it went to the 16 countries. We got over 2,000 staff who participated, who are working at the universities. And you can see some of those countries. And some of the countries, I had never traveled there. Some of the countries, yes, I have traveled. But for this research, I never traveled there. Even I have not seen many collaborators in person. But that global study happened because it is possible. Everyone wants to work. You really need to have that expertise and have that confidence to tap into. Sometimes, we think, whether they will be interested or not. And I got many rejections. And you can't see those numbers here. You don't see those countries there because it's not about they did not like the project. The issue is they don't have that mutual interest at that time, or they don't have that resource, or they are busy with something else. It is not their priority. That's okay. You can do the collaboration later on. Some of the countries where you can see the name here, they didn't participate in the first study, but they participate in the second study. Some of the countries who participate in the first study, they didn't participate here. That's okay. Life goes on. You can really improve your collaboration by working with some people. And then again, I have learned lots of things there. Anyway, so after doing this second global study, the first thing that I have done again, publication. So that is the thing that we have published last year. Now my collaborating countries, they are working on the individual paper to publish, and probably it will come this year. So again, after publication, dissemination of findings, I disseminate the findings in different platforms. I use my Federation University, I use the Times Higher Education newsletter, WASD, World Association of Sustainable Development, they also publish my news. So I try to disseminate this. Now you may think of, wow, that's really good and really great. But I am an early career researcher. It's not possible for me. And really, everything looks really fantastic. But you don't know the challenges that I have to go through for these things. So let me share with you some of the challenges. So the features is really impressive features, right? 17 countries, more than 8,000. If you think of the first global study, more than 8,500 people participated, completed in 12 months, unfunded, 12 paper, really fantastic thing. But the challenges, the admin activities, I had to do all of this admin. I did not have that luxury to have, I have the PA, I have this team. Maheswar is really lucky that he already got a team of soldiers to work with him. But I did not get anyone to work with me. I had to respond to all of these emails. And sometimes you think of, oh, really, you have sent this email. People understand this thing and say, oh, really good. But it's not. Because people are thinking, I don't know, with due respect to all my collaborators, they don't understand the communication that I thought that it is really easy. People should have understood, but they did not understand. Then getting the local ethics approval, you need really to push and do some of this thing. I'll share some of the tips, and then producing the research output. So what are the strategies that I have adopted to maintain the admin activities? I accepted the responsibility. I thought, okay, that's okay. I will accept all this responsibility. It's a full-time executive assistant job that I had to do besides my teaching, research, and all of these activities. Local ethics approval, I planned beforehand, and I mentioned, look, this is the thing, you need to source, you need to know this is the local ethics approval, and you just come give me a letter and saying, oh, this is the ethics approval. It's not. I need to get the approval from the Human Research Ethics Committee. If not, what is the equivalent committee? I need to get this authentic data, because everything will depend on the integrity of the research, what we do. I don't want to have this some fake data to get this thing. So I need to have this trust. I need to build that relationship with the collaborator where I can have this trust. And then engaging the collaborator is really challenging, because as I mentioned, sometimes the communication is a problem, because email is not accepted by all the collaborators. They love WhatsApp, and they send the documents in WhatsApp. I said, oh, this is not the way that in Australia it works. In Australia, everyone works on email. But in some of the countries, like in Indonesia, they love WhatsApp, and they're sending all the documents in WhatsApp. I said, okay, send me this. They're sending in WhatsApp. I said, oh, no, not in WhatsApp. Send me an email. It is really challenging thing for me to do. Then I said, no, okay, that's okay. It is really progressing. It's not progressing well. So let me mold this thing to adapt with their strategy, what they prefer, so that the work will happen quickly. And then producing research output, it is really important to have the content monitoring. Now, that's enough about me. Now, let's focus on you. How can you start collaboration? So my advice will be start at the very local level. When I said start at the very local level, what does that mean? So I will say start with your peer, your friends, your like-minded people, same early career researcher, or if you're mid-career researcher, think of this thing. Who are your friends who are working in this sector, who want to be a researcher? So start working with your friends. That would be really my advice. Then my advice will be work with your office colleagues, wherever the organization that you're working. Sometimes, people don't talk. They want to work in silo. It is really not the way that it will be productive. So try to talk to the people. You may not get collaborated. That's okay. But at first, you approach your friends and you approach your colleague who really want to work with you and to be productive in research. So that will be my advice. Start at the very local level that you have under control. Then once you have the control, then I will say expand to the next local level. What does that mean? You work in an organization. Now think of the other organization that you know. That approach to the other institution, go to the similar level of staff or the organization, and think of the similar level of people with whom you can start working with. So that is really important, that you still working locally, but you went to the other institute and then form a team. It's really important to form a team. You may not have all the expertise, that's what I'm saying. It's a teamwork. You need to think of having a good team. It's really important that you think of doing this. Okay, so you started with your friends, started with office colleagues, then went to the next institution, and then went to the next institution, probably 5 institutions. Okay, then you got a team, and some of the people that you interact with, and then you'll find, oh no, it's not going to work. That's okay. You justify, you judge, and then you form a good team. Once you have this good team, what is the next level? Definitely you want to go global, right? So what should you do before approaching national or international collaborator? The first thing that you think, okay, I'm working in Pakistan. Now I have this collaboration. Okay, I have worked locally. I have worked with other institutions. Now I want to work nationally. Then I want to work internationally. What is the thing that you should do? And if you look at my example, what I have done, after I have done some research, what is the thing that I have done? I have published. So the best option that you can do is either you publish or you perish. So publish or perish, you have heard probably this myth. It's not a myth. It is a thing that you have to do this thing. If you want to be productive in research, you have to publish. If you publish, that will give you the credibility. Yes, you have generated the evidence and you have published. And I will tell you, a good first author international publication is a testimony of a research expertise. And most of you mentioned today that you want to progress in your career, right? So if you want to progress in your career, if you are a master's student, you want to do a PhD down the track, you want to come to Australia, you want to go to US, you want to do a PhD. The first thing that I ask, I got all these queries from all the students. Oh, really, I want to do research, I want to do a PhD. The first thing that I ask, okay, what about your research experience? Oh, I have done 15 years of research. Oh, that's wonderful. That's good. Okay, do you have publication? Yeah, no, I don't have the publication. I said, okay, with due respect, that's really good. Good to know that you have a good research experience, but we judge based on your publication because that gives you the testimony. Yes, you have done in research, and then you have the testimony that is a proof that you have done research. Now, in terms of the research article and research publication, yes, I've done publication. I have 15 publications. Oh, that's wonderful. So where are you? I am in the third, fourth, fifth, 15, 16. I said, okay, thank you. Do you have any first author publication? Because what it does, if you are a first author publication, that means it is your work. It demonstrates that you are the main person who drove that research. That will give me more confidence. Yes, you know the research, you know how to do this thing. If you are the third, fourth, fifth, or author, I don't know really what was your contribution in that paper. Maybe you have to tell your friend, okay, can you please give me my name? Or you have done, probably you have contributed, but there is no way that I can justify what was your contribution in that paper. So it is important that you need to have the first author. Oh, I have the first author publication that I published in Bangladesh in this local journal. Oh, that's good. But local journal, in terms of the international journal is always preferred. So you can start locally with this local journal. Your main target will be international publication. And when you go to the international publication, those who understand about the journals, so you always look at the Q1 journal. We also look at the Scopus Index journal. Those who don't understand, I will not go into details. The bottom line is that you need to understand. You need to have a very good first author international publication. And that good first author international publication will happen if you do your research in the authentic manner, if you do your research with a hot topic, if you do your research well. If there are issues, if there are challenges, if there are methodological errors in the research that you are conducting, the chance of publishing into the international journal will be really less. So it's really important that you focus on the research methodology, and you can do an authentic research once you know. If you don't know, you don't know. So it's important that you have the research knowledge, you have the research qualification, you have a good mentor, and then you follow the authentic research pathway to do that research. That will give you the chance to have the research publication. Okay. Now the next thing is, okay, you have published, you have a couple of publications. Now, how will you collaborate nationally or internationally? Assume that you already have one first author international publication. How you want to start collaboration? It's all about communication. And in terms of communication, I have a different lecture just focusing on communication. If I just tell you one thing that you need to do is, we can send an email to any collaborator of the world. You can approach to any Harvard professor. You can approach to anyone who is expert. He's working on mental health. I'm working on this thing. I have read some of the articles that Professor of Harvard has published. I'm really interested to know further. You can directly email. There's no issue. No one will say, oh, you can't do this thing. No, it's not like this. Open communication. You can approach that professor saying, oh, look, I'm really want to do some research. I'm really impressed by this thing. Look, this is the thing I have done in India. Now I was thinking whether following your method, following this thing, can I do something? So you need to first have this credibility to approach someone. Now, if someone approaches, oh, I want to do this thing, okay, have you done something? Oh, no, I have not done. Really, then I'm just wasting my time. Because everyone is busy and you want to have the effective communication. So you don't just want to say hello and do all of this thing, right? So email, still the old-fashioned, but still it works. The next thing that I will encourage you is about LinkedIn. Really powerful. You can really make the global connection through LinkedIn, national connection through LinkedIn. There are different features in LinkedIn. If you look at this thing, you don't need to subscribe to have the premium membership, just a free use in the free version. You can really search, okay, I want to know who are these players in this mental health. I'm just giving you an example of mental health. Who are these players in mental health? I want to know about them. You can find them and just try to follow their work. What are the things that they are doing? What are the work that they are doing? What are the publications that they're doing? Try to follow, try to learn from them. And then when there is an opportunity, try to put comments. Yes, I can see this thing based on my experience. This is the thing, this is a good lesson. Try to communicate, and then you can also send text message in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is very powerful. Those who are not at LinkedIn, I will strongly encourage that you do this thing and start from now on. Okay, and try to connect with people, try to build your network, and try to learn from the people who are really doing really good, depending on your area of interest. Okay, so that will be the important thing to start collaborating nationally and internationally. The next question that I want to ask now, what qualities or resources will you seek if someone wishes to collaborate on your research project? Now you think that you are really doing well. You're already active in research. Okay? Rather than I ask this question, I am putting yourself in my scene. Now, if you are a researcher, what are the things that you will look for if someone comes to you? I want to do research with you. What are the things that you will ask? What are the things that you will look at from that people? Okay, giving you 2 minutes to respond to this thing. What are the things that you are expecting from someone? Think that you are a good researcher, you are an experienced researcher, and someone says, I want to do research with you, I want to do collaboration with you. What are the things that you look at that person? Let's see. Dedication, motivation, experience, proactiveness, okay, skills, problem solving, willing to work together, publication, methods. Oh, that's I really love this thing. What can they do that I can't, but will help the project? That's really good. Number of publication, reliability, time, very important. Common interest, yes. Strong commitment, mindset, skill gap filling. Okay, thank you very much for your response. Now we see most of the people, you have already said this thing. What do you need? Dedication, motivation, commitment, experience, publication, problem solving, skill, time. You know this thing. So exactly that is the thing we look for. So what you have responded, now ask yourself, do you have this capacity? If you have this capacity, having the collaboration, anyone will be willing to collaborate if they matches the interest. You need to have the mutual interest. Yeah, oh, I really like to do mental health, but it's not a priority for me now. I really focusing on cardiac disease. So probably that's not a mutual interest. If I have the mutual interest, if you have all of this quality, yes, definitely. Why don't I collaborate? Why will I not collaborate with you? So look at this thing, look at this slide. I will share this slide and with this finding. So thank you very much for all the participation. Now look at these attributes. These are the things that a collaborator will look at you when you think of approaching anyone. Okay, I want to show you, I want to demonstrate to you. You have responded to this. I did not say anything. You have responded to this. You know the answer. Exactly, that is the thing. Now you ask yourself, do you fulfill this criteria? Do you have this thing? Where is your weakness that you can improve? Okay. Now, if I look for collaboration, what are the things that I personally look in terms of collaboration? The first thing that I look is credibility. Credibility as an individual or credibility as a team. If it is an individual, I look at whether that person is qualified and educated. Remember, I started my presentation with this thing, qualified and educated. You need to have this qualification and education to prove yourself, yes, you are credible to do this thing. For the team, I look for experience. For the individual, I don't look at the experience. If you have the qualification, education, provided that you have all of these things that I have shared with you earlier, you have the commitment, you have the dedication, you have extra time, you can fulfill this thing, you can do all of this. But you need to be credible once you have this qualification and education. If it is a team, then I look at, okay, what you have done as a team at the local level, that's absolutely fine. Okay. The next thing that I look is commitment. I have seen and I have mentored lots of people. Very few people have commitment, and I don't have time for the people who don't have commitment. Okay, so it's really important that you demonstrate your commitment and dedicated time. These are the three things, that simple thing that I look at. You have credibility, you have commitment, you can devote time, I can devote time for you. If you don't have all of this thing, really, everyone is busy. Okay, so this very simple thing I look at: credibility, commitment, and dedicated time. Now you got this thing. Now, what are the things that I would look at that I can't do? Someone has responded, okay, I look for someone that they can do that I can't do. Now, as a professor with lots of commitment, what I can do, what are the things that I will think it will be really helpful for me to do is, these are the things that I look at. Whether you can do a local ethics approval, whether you can confirm that you can do authentic data collection, whether you can do literature review, whether you can draft a manuscript, whether you have that skill to do this thing. I can mentor you. I don't have time to do the literature review now. I don't have time to go for data collection now, but I need to trust you. Yes, you will give me the data which is authentic. I know that, yes, you can get the local ethics approval. I know that you can draft something, that I can give you feedback and you can improve it, then I can do this thing. I can't write at this moment. Okay, so these are the things that is really important that I look for. If I want to do collaboration, these are the things that I look. I'm near to finish off my presentation. The last thing that I want to share is, what are the tips that I can share? And I just published this thing in a newsletter, tips to manage an international research team from the global project. Based on the two examples that I have shared with you, what I can say is, these are the tips. Important to have the effective communication. Communication is the really key. Clarifying the expectation. You need to clarify the expectation when you work with the team, specifically international. You need to clarify this thing. What are the things that you want? And you can also think of any collaboration, even at the local level. What are the things that you want with the collaborator? What is your expectation? What is the expectation from the collaborator? What do they want? Agreement on a timeline. What is the timeline? Mobilizing the strength of the team members. As I mentioned, you can share the expertise. You can share all of these things. If you don't have that expertise, you can share this, have this expertise shared from the collaborator. Accepting responsibility that I have shared with you. You need to accept the responsibility, some of the admin issues, some of the communication, you need to accept the responsibilities. And it's really important to have this continued monitoring and follow-up. Otherwise, sometimes, people are busy, some other priorities will come. But if you don't do this monitoring and the follow-up, it may fall. And most important thing is patience. You need to have lots of patience to work on this thing. It is really easy to quit. And if you think of something as, oh, you forget about this thing. Yes, you can forget about this. You'll not be able to progress. You need to have patience for doing the research, and for collaboration specifically, as I mentioned, you really need to have lots of patience. Okay, so the take-home message, if I can share with you, it's important to identify the contemporary issue, identify the mutual interest for your collaboration, identify the suitable collaborators, sort the technical issues beforehand, engage experienced people. Again, I will say, have patience. So I hope that what I have shared with you, that you will think of yourself, put yourself in all of these attributes that I have mentioned. Then ask yourself, where is the gap? And then try to work on this thing, how you can address this gap so that you can be productive in research, and that you can start collaborating locally and nationally and internationally. With this thing, thank you very much. Feel free to connect with me. You can scan this QR code and connect with me at LinkedIn. Thank you, Maheswar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ajis. Such a wonderful
Hopefully I'm on time.
presentation. I think, and I think you have done, you have done what I was literally, wanting for some time now. Because I wanted our young participants, especially even the older participants who are attending, some of them are very senior in senior positions. They also would benefit from the kind of ideas that you have put forward very plainly and in an unapologetic sense, because many times we may be the best of the researchers, but it's a tough game to learn to become a responsible, mature, professional and disciplined collaborator. It's one of the toughest jobs, and one of the things I really appreciated about that, coming out of the comfort zone and making sacrifices at personal levels, because collaboration is a hardball game if you're not ready to make sacrifices. In fact, if this program is able to be even come to this stage after completing 1 month, I think it has involved countless hours of sleepless and relentless activity, planning, designing, executing, and everything. And as you rightly say that I have got a team, but let me tell you from my personal experience, it has not been easy. It's been a bumpy road for past 1.5 months since we started designing this program and we implemented it without anyone's support, literally no one's support. So yes, our tutors have been supportive to us, but it's been also a tough game even to mentor them and to guide them and even put forward so that the tutors are able to give the very best mentorship to our training participants. It's not easy also, managing a team of 15 people, tutors who are going to manage again 250, 300 people is quite a tough job on its own. On a daily basis, from morning till night, we are literally sending messages, we are monitoring, we are changing, and sometimes hounding also, like why this has not been sent, like attendance sheet, let's say, why this is not there, why are you not attending meetings, let's say. So we are doing that on a daily basis from morning till night. Every evening, I have left everything that I was doing so far, and now I am completely dedicated, committed to this very activity from evening 6 o'clock till 12 o'clock. That's the minimum. Sometimes it goes till 4:30, 5 o'clock in the night, because we plan and we execute things at that time. So it's not easy doing anything for that matter, and anybody who thinks writing papers or doing an international project is easy, they have to go beyond one thing, that is comfort zone. If you are ready to go beyond your comfort zone, I think you are ready to be an international collaborator or collaborator of any kind. So with that note, let me invite you for the panel discussion. You may provide the feedback to Dr. Aziz on this barcode. I think you have put up that. So is that right, Dr. Aziz? Okay,
Yeah.
right. Okay, yep. Right. So if you want to give him any personalized feedback, you're free to give it. Otherwise, we will have a feedback form at the end anyway. So he will be also communicated. Not an issue. Okay, so we'll go quickly. If I can request Faisal to end this slide. Dr. Aziz, please end your slide so that we can go to the dedicated panel discussion mode. Yes, right. Okay, thank you. So we'll start the dedicated panel discussion now very quickly, because we are running a little bit behind the time. And
I do apologize, Maheswar. So, it's really difficult to control when I start talking.
No, I know. If we are passionate teachers, I think we'll never be very, we go beyond our times. Like we are paid for half an hour and we teach 3 hours for free, literally. If you're a passionate teacher, that happens. I am one of those, so I know that. I completely resonate with everything that is going on. And I have no issues, but only because we have next analyst coming up, that's why I'm a little concerned. Otherwise, no issues. We'll do our very best, no issues.
Okay. Not a problem, Maheswar. So we do respect to the next panel members. So probably we can prioritize the participants to ask me questions before you ask any question, or whatever you prefer, because I don't want to
we'll continue with the same
deprive them that they'll say, oh, we missed to ask questions.
No problem. They are putting up questions now in the question and answer section, Q&A section. So we'll be able to sort of prioritize few questions and we'll be able to ask. Not to. We'll run as per the standard protocol. Okay, so we have a pack of questions ready for you, Dr. Aziz. So I hope you are ready now with fully liquidated and yeah, okay, good. So what inspired your long-standing engagement with Australian public health governance process at like PHHA and even at Federation University Australia, and how have you continued so far? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Thanks, Maheswar. So in terms of my role here, so at Federation University, as I mentioned, so there are three institutes. One of the institutes is called Institute of Health and Wellbeing. Within the Institute of Health and Wellbeing, there are 9 disciplines. So say, for example, nursing, paramedicine, public health, and all of these things. So within these 9 disciplines, public health is one of the disciplines, and I'm the head of public health. But at the same time, I'm also the research advisor for all these 9 disciplines. That means to support the research activities, what's happening across all these 9 disciplines within the Institute of Health and Wellbeing, I support them. So in terms of the support, what we do is really, again, like today's, most of the participants is early career professionals. Same thing is happening at our university. Probably it is common at other universities. The main priority population is early career researchers who are really at the beginning of their career of research. They're quite busy in teaching. And the thing is, we try to help them how to be productive in research. And one of these things is really we have established is mentoring program, research mentoring program, how they can progress, in terms of starting the research, being involved in some of the research project, being involved in some of the funding applications, and then being productive. So basically, is one of my activities is to support the researchers' growth. The other thing that we do is to support the higher degree research students. In Australia, we call the higher degree research who are doing masters or PhD by research, and then trying to do this thing, and then how we can support them to help them in giving some of the training. So working closely with the graduate research school to support the growth of these students, and then involving in some of their confirmation of candidature, their in terms of thesis discussion and all of this thing that we do. The other thing, apart from outside of this university that we do, as you mentioned, is Public Health Association of Australia. So, what is that organization in Australia? The organization which is involved in managing not managing, but all the public health professionals are member of this national organization. So, this is the largest organization of public health professionals in Australia. And if I tell you a little bit about this organization, so probably you can understand. So they work more actively for the policies, how to convert the research evidence into policies. So at Federation University, as I mentioned, and you have seen some of the presentation, that I am really active researcher. I'm also helping the early career people to do the research. So both of us are generating the evidence. Public Health Association of Australia, their primary activity is how to take this evidence and then convert into policy and to help the people. And unfortunately, what they do, Public Health Association of Australia, is really focused on Australian people. They don't look at the international because that is not their mandate. Their mandate is to look at the health and well-being of Australian people. And if I give you an example, probably that may help for the early care researcher to understand. One of the tobacco issue is vaping. So electronic cigarette issue, right? So in Australia, what's happening? This vaping has been uptaken by the adolescent, young people, school kids. They are using this vaping. In 1980s, when or earlier, people used to do smoke. And if you don't smoke in your peer group, you think, you don't smoke. And if you smoke, it is a cool type of attitude. Same thing is happening for vaping. Now, in terms of vaping, it has really gone to the roof, and everyone was struggling to do this thing. So, at first, what we need to do, we need to generate evidence. We started getting lots of literature about why people are doing the vaping, why they are getting this vaping, and all of these issues. So, what we have found from the evidence is they are getting this vaping from the $2 Chinese shop. They are going there, getting the disposable vapes. And now we have the evidence because it is really available, easily accessible. What we need to do, we need to stop the availability, we need to stop the accessibility. So what Public Health Association of Australia did, they got this evidence based on the publication, then they talked with the MPs, local MPs, and the opponent parties and said, look, this is the issue. We need to address this thing. What do you need to do? Said, okay, what do you need to do? Then they did lots of lobbying to stop making those vaping products available at the shops. Then they have restricted this thing. Then they made the policy, and in terms of making the policy, it needs to go through parliament, right? But how the MP, because the MPs is the politician, they don't know anything about this thing. Public Health Association in Australia, this type of organization, they advocate based on the evidence. They say, look, we need to do something, and what are the things that they need to do? Okay, this one. Now, when we suggest something, it needs to have some evidence. Yes, this evidence, this intervention worked elsewhere. We have lots of evidence that worked Europe, in US, and we give the evidence. Then they apply. So what's happening at this moment? No one can buy this vaping product except from the chemist shop. So you need to go to the chemist shop, and it's similar to the cigarette. You need to show your ID, you are over 18 years of age, and then you can access. The other thing that happened, these young people, they are really attracted using the social media. They use Snapchat, videos, and Instagram, and all of this. And tobacco companies are trying to manipulate this social media to promote this vaping product. What they are doing, they are promoting this thing. They're giving lots of challenges, and you go and do this game, and you get these points, and then you'll get this free. And they are doing all the advertisement of vaping, and they're giving lots of attractive price. What Australian government has done, and it is just example of vaping, but it's not only the vaping, but there are lots of influence that they are doing. It's impacting on the young people. From last year, or probably from earlier this year, now social media has been banned for young people below 16 years of age. Australian government has implemented this thing based on the evidence that was generated. So Public Health Association of Australia, what they do, they get this evidence, influence the policy makers, and then make the decision. I'm working in this organization as the vice president, and one of the top organizations in Australia, what they are doing in terms of this policy space. So these are the things that they do. One thing I'll mention about this organization is what they do exceptionally well is, say, for example, in wherever you are, in terms of the election, when does that happen? All the candidates mention, oh, yeah, I want to do this, I will do this. Before the election, they do all of this commitment. After the election, they forget all of this thing because they got the vote, right? What Public Health Association of Australia does, okay, you have your political agenda, that's okay. What about the health agenda? So Public Health Association of Australia identifies, okay, these are the 10 health agenda that is really important for Australian people now. Okay, they make this list and they go to all the main parties and they say, can you score, if you are elected, what will be your priorities? Will you do action on any of this, like climate and health? Will you do any work on this thing? Like indigenous population, health and well-being, will you do something on this thing? They ask this question, say for example, political party A, political party B, political party C, they go there. Okay, they ask the same question and they do the scoring, the scorecard. And they mention this thing, we mention, okay, the week before the election, we will publish this thing publicly. It is really open page and people know these are the parties A, B, and C. This is the 10 issues that we have identified based on the evidence. Now, this is the thing you can see, they have said red, they have said green. So it's green and red. Green means yes, this will support, red means they will not support. Now you can decide on this thing. It's a very clean thing that they do this advocacy. So this is the thing, some of the examples that I can share, Maheswar.
Okay, great, excellent. I have a lot of questions for you, Dr. Ajit, so you have to be very fast. Okay, so question number 2, how do you plan to include diverse global, cultural and social attributes in shaping public health education at the Federation University in Australia, which is truly global in terms of participation?
So in terms of the Federation of Australia in public health, what's happening, it's a really new discipline and we are also facing lots of challenges for the visa issue and all of this. But if we forget of all of these things, our main participants are coming from international settings. And we have a small cohort, but all of the people are coming and specifically coming from South Asian settings. And why they are coming, they definitely want to come to Australia to have this permanent residence, all of this is a secondary objective. But the main objective is we are getting the diverse range of population and they are coming from multidisciplinary background. One of the things that I used to struggle to tell people what is public health. After COVID-19 pandemic, people understand what is public health. Now, there is a myth that it was said that public health is only for the people from health background, but it doesn't happen. Because COVID pandemic has showed you need multidisciplinary people. And exactly the same thing I have implemented in public health discipline, where we have students from multidisciplinary background. They are coming from health background, non-health background, and they are contributing. And many of them are coming with the experience. And when they do group activities, they share all of these things. They're coming from the different socio-cultural background. They share all of these things. And once they do this thing in the second year, in a 2-year course, in the second year, they also do research. So many of our master public health students, what do they research on? What's happening with the international students about their health and well-being? What's happening among migrant population in Australia? So they come with their knowledge of their setting and their culture, and they try to examine this thing, what's happening with those people who have migrated to Australia but still having this culture. What are the issues and what are the challenges that's happening? So that's the way that we are trying to integrate this issue.
Okay, great, excellent. I think you are doing very well. So linked to that thing itself, my next question. So how do we make a shift from Western biomedicine? Western biomedicine operates in a certain way. It has its own ways of operating, its own lenses of looking at and examining the questions, and even the standard operating procedure. But how do we make a shift from Western biomedicine to adapting multicultural and cross-cultural adaptation of global health as acceptable globally, so that people who are based in different diverse geographies can actually connect to it, and it will actually serve everyone equally and equitably?
That's a good question, Maheswar. So the example that I give in this regard is, for the last 3 years, what we are trying to do, we have the multidisciplinary students at our institute, as I mentioned. So we have been taking these students who are, say, for example, working in clinician as a nurse or as a physiotherapist or the other allied health discipline. We take them to the resource port settings, like we go to Indonesia in one of the partner organizations we have, Universitas Erlangga. We take these students there and they go to the field settings to understand what are the determinants of health. Now they look at the health promotion activities in the resource port settings. And one of the key objectives of this trip is they understand these determinants. And these determinants, once they see this thing at the real life setting, once they come back to Australia, because they deal with these multicultural people, these multicultural people will come in interaction with these clinicians. So they will understand why people need to decide on the head of the family members to make a decision. In Australian context, they will not be able to understand this issue. Why religion should play a part in the health and well-being. They understood this thing when they went there. Why gender should play a role there. All of these things that they understand, because they deal with this multicultural people. People come to Australia. It's not like, oh, they become white people overnight or they become Australian. They become Australian with the passport, but they don't change their culture. They don't change their belief. All of these things will impact their health behavior, will impact on their health outcome. So we try to do this thing, and many of my PhD students, they are also trying to look at this issue of migrant. In Australian context, specifically, if you compare to UK settings, there are lots of studies on migrant. In Australia, there are very few evidence on this thing. Therefore, few of my PhD students are focusing on different aspects. One of my PhD students just finished the PhD focusing on the mental health issues among the Bangladeshi migrants in Australia. What are the challenges? What are the health-seeking behavior? They have done this thing. So we are trying to deal with these issues in Australian settings through the students through different research project.
Okay, excellent. So linked to that, my next question is, how will Australasia collaborate with the Global South in the next decade? What vision can Asia and the Pacific give to the entire world of global health?
Look, in terms of the health, what I can say is there are lots of collaboration that's happening. It's not only about the health, but also about the technology and all of this. One of the things they are trying to do is innovation in technology. And I'm pretty sure that you understand about this artificial intelligence and how to integrate this thing. There are some other issues that they are also trying to do is, say, for example, some of the common issues like the climate change and impact on the health. They're trying to do these climate and health synergies with different organizations and different partnership and collaboration. One of the challenges that I can see is really the collaboration that I was expecting that should happen. That is really not that much happening that I can see from the health context, because I don't know whether the situation is like this. It is typical to Australia that they focus more, they dedicate more for the health and well-being of Australian people, because from outside we may think, oh, we have self-sufficient resources, we should not have any issue. but there are lots of issues and challenges here. So they try to focus more. And that is one of the things that I faced over the last 20 years. Why, compared to the US, why don't we have funding to take this funding and utilize this thing in the international setting? Because most of the fundings are dedicated here in Australia because they try to address this thing. Still, there are challenges among the indigenous, non-indigenous people. Still, there are challenges about the metropolitan and regional settings. In Australian setting, using the same resource, why that should happen? Why indigenous people should have 4 times a higher rate of smoking compared to an Australian people? Why they should die earlier compared to an Australian people? So that those type of issues and challenges are happening. That's why they dedicate lots of money here to work on this thing. But still, they're trying to do some collaboration with the global aspect. But I think there are lots of gaps there in terms of collaboration.
Okay, excellent. Okay, we go to the next question, which is related to that. So global health obviously includes development. So when we talk about climate change, then we are talking about global health, because global health deals with everything, social injustice, inequities, everything that is happening in the world there. So we go to the next question, which is about global health right now, or even global health and development right now, is faced with multiple challenges in today's inclement funding and chaotic and shaky organizational climate. So how do we build sustainable organizational structures and make them sufficiently adaptive, equitable, and inclusive to support young researchers in the broader domain of healthcare and public health?
One of the things that I would say specifically for this young researcher is about mentorship. And that global mentorship is really important. And one of the perfect example that I'm really pleased that I'm involved is today's session. So this type of global mentoring is the really critical thing, because I can definitely guarantee based on my experience and based on your experience is there are talents, but they need nurturing, they need that support. And really, we don't need to travel. We can do all of this thing online. And we can do this thing as, for example, that you are doing all of this thing for free. So I will reiterate this thing. It is important to have this thing, even if we don't have any funding. It is possible to develop and to support this young researcher through the mentorship. So if I say just one point is about mentoring. So if we can do this thing, we can really do well, and we can bring all of these talented people together.
Okay, right. So what is your advice to LMIC researchers who are aiming to engage in global health and development governance spaces, and how should they navigate their presence to be successful and to be able to occupy leadership positions in future potentially?
One of these things I will say is, again, reflecting back to my lecture, is the first thing is you need to have your capacity to prove yourself. Yes, you are capable to do. So the first thing that you need to do is be qualified, be educated. Once you have this thing, then you need to have this commitment. If you have the commitment, if you have the passion for this thing, and I tell this thing to my mentees, I tell this thing to my students, if you are passionate, you want to be a cook, you can be a master chef. If you don't have passion and you think, let's do this thing and okay, then really it is not reflecting on your work. If you have the passion and dedication, you can go really further. If you don't have this thing, you will struggle, you will stop at some certain stage. So my advice will be really have yourself qualified, educated, have passion, have a good mentor, and then progress. You will definitely reach this thing. Once you prove yourself, you have the capacity, then getting into the collaboration, getting into the global stage, it is just a matter of time.
Okay, great. Definitely, I agree with that. Okay, I go to the next question for you. So what role do these public health associations, like the ones that you are part of, like PHAA and CAPHIA, play in advancing international health diplomacy, which is right now the most hot topic?
So in terms of the international things, so PHA, as I mentioned, so they are really focused on Australian people, but they have started looking at the international settings. Say, for example, they have started collaborating with our neighboring countries, with New Zealand. And one of the things, they are doing lots of work with Australia and New Zealand. CAFIA is the organization where they work with all the universities where they have the public health education. Now, CAFIA is also working internationally with some of these things, like from the Pacific region, and they are also part of Asia Pacific Consortium of Public Health. So in this thing, they are really trying to do some of the improvement. Say, for example, CAFE has already has not done this thing, but Asia Pacific Consortium of Public Health, what they are doing, they have done a structured Master of Public Health program where students can do the exchange. Okay, I'll do first semester in this university and I can go to the next university, and they can choose from the partner organization. So that is the probably the really the ideal way to start collaborating. But unfortunately, CAFE has not gone up to that stage, but they have also seen that model, and probably they will be inspired to do this thing in future. But what they are trying to do here is in Australia, as I mentioned, so unfortunately in Australian setting, they focus more on Australia. So in CAFE, there are 40 universities in Australia, and they look after the public health education, and they also try to do some of the capacity building of the staff who are teaching public health. And they try to do some of the thing, okay, you do how you're integrating artificial intelligence into your lesson, and then bringing that case example into the forum, and then sharing this expertise, and then bringing the perspective of the students. How do you deal with these challenging students? So that sharing of this forum that's happening, but again, unfortunately, it's focused in Australia only.
Okay, right. Okay, so that is related to what I'm going to ask is related to that. So could you share some effective communication strategies that will be probably useful in bridging cross-cultural, ethnic, and linguistic barriers and foster improved international collaboration? Because you are one of the top international collaborators, you have a lot of experience. So can you please give us some strategies?
Thanks, Maheswar. So if I reflect back to my presentation, what I shared in terms of the research and research communication, I always tell communication is the key. What you need to do is once you do some research, try to communicate and go back. The thing that is missing, we have hundreds, thousands of researchers, they just do focus on publication. It's really important to focus on publication. There's no doubt in terms of your academic progress and career and all of this. But you also need to tell to the people who volunteer time to give you the data. We use that data, you use the publication, but really you need to tell them what is the thing that you have found. And the way of communication is to have this in the plain language summary. Some of the examples that I have shared with you. You need to talk to the forum. Either you talk to the forum or you publish as a newsletter in the plain language and try to communicate. This is one thing. The other thing that I will say is in terms of the communication, you will need to learn this thing, the effective communication strategy. What is the effective one that you want to do and what is your objective? Some of the examples that I have shared with you, like, oh, really, I want to communicate with this researcher for collaboration. Do you have that capacity? Do you can prove yourself? Yes, I have the capacity. Now that collaborator can trust me. Then you will communicate this way. And then you need to be professional in communication. And some of the things that I have mentioned, use the LinkedIn to communicate, use email address, but be objective. What is the thing that you want to do? Don't just do for the sake of communication. You will not go anywhere. So if you have the really, what is the thing, if you know your objective of this communication, then probably it is better that you communicate for collaboration. For research, as I mentioned, once you do some research, try to communicate this to going back to the people who gave you the data, either in the plain language, either through podcast, either through radio interview, either through newspaper article. Try to communicate to them. And the last thing that I'll mention, whatever the research that we do, our ultimate aim is to help and improve health and well-being of the population. So that's called the research translation. We just don't do any research for the sake of publication, but we have to convert this thing, how it is impacting on improving. And some of the example that I have mentioned, the Public Health Association of Australia is doing is converting the evidence into policy and then changing and impacting on the population.
Okay, excellent. And the last question. So how can Australasia, not just Australia, Australasia, play a critical role in shaping the concept of one public health, and what possible barriers may need to be kept in mind while envisioning such a system, and what might help to overcome them?
One of these things in terms of one health or one public health is really, I'm pretty sure that people understand this thing. So working with human health, animal health, environmental health, working together. So it is really important. And when you think of the Australasia, Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific Islands, so they have already started working on some of these things. And one of the important issues is the climate change that they're working on that is really impacting on this. And there are lots of evidence gap. So they're working closely to generate more evidence, how it's impacting on the chronic disease and management and how they're coping with all of these things. So one thing is evidence generation. The second thing is about the collaboration. So that is really important. They are trying to collaborate with this thing. Okay, who are the thing? One of the challenges that we have seen, one of the barriers for this thing is the silo working. Many of the organizations are working in silo, but it is really important to have this collaboration with the minister level, at the local level, and the strategic level is really important. So probably these are the two things that I will say within this short period of time. It's really important to focus on the collaboration, multi-sector collaboration, and evidence generation.
Excellent, excellent. I think you have done full justice to the entire questions. I wish I could talk and go on with asking you a number of questions, because I have lots of more questions which I have not listed, but I'll probably get back.
I can assure you, Maheswar, because I know with
okay, so thank you both.
the respect to the next panel members, I'm pretty sure that the panel member will start. Even if I can't respond to any question, I'm happy to respond to those questions. If you share this thing with me, I can just type in the responses and you can share to the participants at any point in time. And I would also like to mention this thing that I have shared my LinkedIn connection. Feel free to connect with me. Feel free to connect through my share. So I'll be very happy and open to respond to any questions. So this is not the end of my connection and my contact with you.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, so it's just the starting, and I think we are going to have a very long way to go, and that's something which we are starting. So just before we close up, I just want to inform you that all the resource persons who come every weekend to talk to our Global Advanced Certification Program, they will be able to put their signatures on one of the documents which we are giving in the line of Australian and UK education system. We are giving a statement of higher education achievement. Faisal, please don't do that. Just put this down. Professor is still on. Please minimize this. Without my permission, don't do anything. Okay. So the thing is that all the participants who are graduating with us, they'll receive a certificate of completion, and they'll also receive a statement of higher education achievement, the way they give it in Australia. So this statement of higher education achievement will bear all the signatures of all the resource persons, and they will be able to keep it, and especially it will be very helpful for the young researchers here, because they can claim that these many eminent luminaries have taught us. Because you are dedicating 1.5 hours of your life to teach them. So this is a just very humble way to sort of put your signature on their certificate, so that they can also claim that yes, you have been their mentor, you have taught them, you have trained them. And so this is our way of doing it. So our admin team will be in touch with you regarding that process and e-signature and everything. And beside that, we'll request you to please share your slides, and we'll be very happy to offer a very small token of appreciation in the form of an appreciation certificate at the end. It will be provided to you very soon in your email. We do not have the means to provide you a hard copy certificate, unfortunately.
Thank you. So what you have done is tremendous job, Maheswar, and I really thank you to give me the opportunity to talk to all these participants today. Really appreciate it.
So yeah, so we'll go there, and so thank you so much for all your patience, and please for coming on board on a Sunday evening. We had a great time talking to each other, and I think we are doing great. It was lovely to host you, Professor Aziz Rehman, and I have enjoyed so far talking to you. And there are a number of questions right now in the thing, in the Q&A. I'll just ask one question out of all the like about 30-40 questions here. So I'll work. Please please bear with us for a few minutes, Dr. Iqbal. Okay, because we are running a little bit late. Okay, so I'll ask one question written by one of the participants, so that maybe you can answer that. So Jusu Musha from Sierra Leone is asking, if someone wishes to collaborate on my research program, I would seek individuals with relevant expertise in the topic area, strong commitment to the research objectives. I think it's a comment. It's not actually a question, but maybe okay. Most of the questions are very interesting, but maybe I'll ask.
That's fine, Maheswar. Okay. So with due respect to the next presenter, so please share me the question. I will respond to you.
I'll say it. I'll say. Professor Ajit, I'll share all the questions, but let me just ask one question so that the participant don't feel demoralized. Arindam is saying, sir, I'm finishing my MPH. I will start working with a mild-sized organization that makes family planning products accessible to the marginalized. I'll not be associated with any university or academic institution. In that case, how can I continue to do research and publish?
Okay, so the thing that I will refer to this thing, thanks, that's a really good question. Again, remember my slide. What you need to do, you need to have a mentor. And that mentor is not necessarily need to be, mentor could be from anywhere, from any organization that you are thinking that can help you and who is active in research. So contact with a mentor. Professor Maheswar is here. I'll be very happy to help you if I can. Or you go to someone else. You need to get a mentor, and what you need to remember, just follow all the points. You need to dedicate the extra time. You need to have the commitment. You work on this thing that what you're doing. But that research, your ultimate objective is you need to do the research and get this thing published. So that will be your ultimate outcome, and who can help you and guide you so that you can fulfill that objective. So if you have this thing, really, wherever you are working, it doesn't matter.
Okay, great. I think you answered it very well, perfectly. So, so thank you, Professor Rahman, for coming on board. It was lovely talking to you, lovely hosting you. Now
Thank you.
I'll hand over
Sincere
to...
apologies, Maheswar, for the time.
No issues, no issues. We are just a few minutes left. It happens in all programs, literally. So, so I hand over to Faisal to do the rest, and then we'll have a short break because the participants also need a bit of break before the next panel. So thank you. And I'll get in touch with you personally later.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Professor Rahman and Professor Satpathy, for such a compelling and enlightening discussion. So we will now take a 5-minute break and return shortly for our second panel, which will be delivered by Dr. Javed Iqbal. So please stay tuned. We'll start just after 5 minutes.
Yes, yes. Okay. Hi, Dr. Javed. I hope you are able to hear me. Now you can spotlight Dr. Javed. Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Welcome. I hope you are well.
Yeah. Actually, I was not well this whole day, but now I'm feeling better.
Okay. You'll be much better. Once you teach our students, it'll be much better. Okay.
No.
So
I'm not here. I'm just here to share my experience.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. We'll just take 3 minutes break because they have been listening to the lecture for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll start the session. Okay. I hope that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Audio?
Sorry?
My audio is okay? Can you hear me clearly?
Yes. Perfect. Yes. Please stay on board. We'll start in 2 minutes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So yes, I'll do. Definitely. I'll do. Thank you, Dr. Aziz. I'll get in touch with you. Okay, we'll shortly start with the session of Professor Javed Iqbal, and he is already here with us. So, Faisal, are you here and are you able to hear me all right?
So welcome back,
Faisal,
everyone.
are you there?
We
Hello.
now
Just wait. Are we going to stream on YouTube? Sorry? Yeah, please post the link in case we are streaming in the groups. Anybody wants to join, they can join. Although we have Zoom, so there is no issue. We have enough seats. So are you doing that right now?
okay. So we can start now.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Let's start.
So welcome back, everyone. We now move into our panel discussion 2, titled Global Health System Strengthening by Creating a Network of Path Labs in LMICs, Addressing the Gaps in Clinical Research with Multidisciplinary and Multi-Country Collaboration. Joining us today, Dr. Javed Iqbal, Vice Chair and Senior Consultant Pathologist, Seeing Health, and Associate Professor, Duke NUS Medical School, Singapore. Moderated once again by Professor Satpathy, Professor of Global and Planetary Health, Brain and Mental Health and Public Policy, Director, COE in Environment, Climate Change and Public Health and Policy, India. Professor Satpathy, over to you to introduce our eminent guest today, Dr. Javed Iqbal, and begin the session.
Okay, thank you, Faisal. Okay, so let's start. So welcome, Dr. Javed, and it's a pleasure hosting you. So let me have the honor of introducing Dr. Javed Iqbal, panelist number 2. He is Vice Chair Research and Senior Consultant Pathologist in Singapore Health, SGH, and Associate Professor of Duke NUS Medical School. Dr. Javed Iqbal is a Senior Consultant Pathologist at Singapore General Hospital, SGH, and Associate Professor at Duke NUS Medical School. With over 3 decades of experience spanning Bangladesh, the United States, and Singapore, he has established himself as an expert in anatomical pathology with a focus in breast and hematological malignancies. Dr. Iqbal holds an MBBS from Dhaka Medical College and a PhD in molecular biology from Allegheny University of Health Sciences, USA. He completed his pathology residency at North Shore University Hospital, New York, followed by fellowships in oncologic pathology and hematopathology. At STH, he directs the Translational Research and Innovation Laboratory, TRAIL, and serves as Vice Chair Research of the Pathology Academic Clinical Program. His research on tumor immunology, lymphoma pathology, hypoxia, and epigenetic regulation in triple-negative breast cancer has led to international recognition with over 70 peer-reviewed publications and multiple funded grants. As a PG laboratory scientist and pathologist, he has an impressive H index of 32 and cumulative citations over 3,800. He is a passionate educator and mentor and has contributed to pathology training in Singapore through leadership in intensive residency programs and immersive academic mentorship process. Beyond clinical and academic roles, Dr. Iqbal is deeply engaged in global health advocacy and community service, advocating for diagnostic equity and supporting access to laboratory medicine health in Bangladesh. So, with this humble introduction of Dr. Iqbal, Javed Iqbal, may I request Dr. Iqbal to kindly make his presentation and shower his wisdom on all our young participants, young and old participants, and I'm sure it will be a great presentation. You have 30 minutes to make the presentation, followed by a moderated panel discussion, which I'll be moderating. And after that, we will open the floor to our participants to ask questions for about 10 minutes. And that's the whole format of today's session. So thank you. The floor is all yours, Dr. Javed Iqbal. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Maheswar. Can you see my screen? Okay. And again, thank you for the very kind introduction. It was quite a long introduction compared to my, what I have done so far. But anyway, so just briefly, I'm a histopathologist at Singapore General Hospital. And in addition to being a pathologist, I have some teaching responsibility, some research, and recently in the last few years, I've been involved in global health programs, both research and some advocacies. So with that, I start the session, this talk, which is about global health strengthening by creating a network of pathology labs in low and middle income countries. And in order to do that, we need to address some of the clinical research gaps that we have in this part of the world. And we also I'll try to offer some solutions. It's not that these solutions are new, but these are practice already. But just for our young researchers, probably this might be helpful to address some of the barriers in starting their research career. Sorry. Okay, so very briefly, I just showing you the proportion of gross expenditure in research and development in different parts of the world in terms of GDP. So if you compare the top sector, the Europeans, and go down and look at the Southeast Asia, which of course also includes South Asia, you see the big gap in difference in research and R&D expenditure. Of course, these numbers are this average. Within each region, there are some countries which spend a lot of money on research, some spend less money. For example, in Southeast Asia, Singapore has a very high uh, uh, expenditure in R&D in terms of GDP compared to other countries, for example, like Cambodia or Thailand. So these numbers are, as I said, just an average number, but it gives you an idea for how the different countries are allocating funds for research. And if you look at the health researchers by income group, you see that in the high income group countries, like say USA, UK, European Union, they have for each million population, they have 353 full-time researchers. Whereas in a lower middle income or low income country, this is much less, almost uh, 6 to 60 times less. So and within these countries, there are some countries that are have very high number of health researchers. For example, Singapore, considering its very small population and small size, it has a very high number of health researchers, which compared to some other countries of similar size, similar population, they have very few. Like for example, in Asia, we have Malaysia, which has a smaller number of health researchers. And of course, no need to compare the other Asian countries because they will not come very close to to these numbers. So this was just an overview of some of the issues that we see in terms of research problems. So what are the, if you look at the broader perspective, what are the problems? So of course we see that there's a big healthcare disparity between high income countries and LMICs. Although the disease burden is very high in the lower income countries, like 60% global cancer burden, 80% of cardiovascular diabetes death, 90% of pulmonary disease deaths. But in spite of this large number of this large proportion of disease burden, these countries are not very well represented in global health leadership roles or organizations. Like if you look at WHO or CDC or you don't see that like if you look at the WHO books that they publish every year, very few authors from our region, and the research expenditure, 90% of the health research expenditure in globally targets around only 10% of the world's population, which is the high income group. So, most of the diseases that we study are represented highly high income developed nations. And similarly, if you look at the journal, yes.
Excuse me, Doctor. Your voice is fluctuating. So could you please speak closer to the computer or
Okay,
mic, or
sorry.
if you're using?
Okay, now is it better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the number of authors in journals you see is also very similar. There are fewer authors from the low-income countries compared to the high-income countries. So what happens is, when with a weak pathology infrastructure, there is less clinical research, and this weakness in research translates into weakness in our treatment. So there is delayed treatments, weakened disease survival, surveillance, and so forth. So, which indicates that to build up a very robust healthcare system, we need to have a very strong healthcare research system in parallel. So if you look at this chart, as a pathologist, my focus is, naturally on pathology and pathology labs, pathology numbers. And if this chart caught my attention, you see that in India, the pathologist density per 100,000 population is 1, right? In Thailand, which is a relatively developed country in this region, Southeast Asia, this number is 1.85. So it's slightly higher than India. Whereas in USA, this number is, in USA, this number is quite high. Similarly, if you look at the number of labs that are in these countries, India has quite a good number of labs, 100,000 plus. Although the number of accredited labs are fewer, only like 2,000. Whereas in USA, in USA, this number is 8,000. So there's 8,000 accredited labs in USA, whereas in Thailand, this is only 30. So there is quite variation in pathologist numbers, good accredited labs in this region of Asia. So all this is part of the problem that we have in the pathology health system in our in Southeast Asia, South Asia and Southeast Asia. So now the question is, why do we need good pathology labs and good number of pathologists in the healthcare system? Well, the reason is you need good diagnostic system, diagnostic expertise for treatment, for proper treatment, and for good surveillance. And with good treatment and surveillance, the health or economic outcome, which includes treatment, antibiotic overuse or resistance, diagnostic cause, and monitoring of infection, non-communicable disease. All these are affected by these two factors of treatment and surveillance. If you have good treatment surveillance, the aim of universal health coverage, is achievable through your access of quality diagnostic services, quality clinical services, financial risk protection, cost, there's cost effectiveness, and then of course there is safety from public health risk. So all these outcomes of a good universal health coverage comes from is a lot of dependent on the proper diagnosis of these laboratory pathology labs. So that's why we need to have good pathology labs to translate into a good universal health coverage system. So now if we look at the barriers of clinical research in our part of the region, these are quite well known. I'm sure you all know it, but I'm just tabulating it here. So number one is limited infrastructure and resources. Of course, there is shortage of equipment, supplies, the insufficient funding, and gaps in quality assurance programs accreditation. Second factor that we have is inequitable involvement of researchers in global studies. So that means that for, researchers from our part are not well represented in global clinical trials or other studies that are taking place everywhere, every day. So if you have less representation of scientists, researchers from our part, from the low-income groups, obviously, naturally, the focus will be shifted from our problems to problems in that are occurring in the higher income countries. And there are lack of multidisciplinary teams in our region because of discohesive and disjointed health system. There is not much interaction between the public and the policymakers. And of course, what I mentioned is the fragmented health information systems. So all these barriers or problems lead to insufficient local capacity to conduct high quality research studies in public health domain, in pathology domain, and leading to global health studies. So there are a few other challenges, like there's problem with the data system. There's problem with our ethical and regulatory policies. We don't have enough mentors or role models in our part. Of course, the other issue is there's no good career path or recognition for new incoming researchers or scientists looking forward to a very robust research career. I need to mention this, that these problems are not they are universal, but some countries have faced these challenges slightly better than others. For example, India has a better share of some of the, like for example, if you go back, they have developed a system of multidisciplinary teams. There are good mentors, role models in those countries, in India, compared to other countries. Singapore has a very big pool of high impact researchers, but the problem with Singapore is that it's a small country with a small population, so the impact is not felt globally at this point, but with time, I'm sure that this will have good impact on at the global level. But that will take time, of course. So which means that even with the country like Singapore, which has a very good funding system, has a lot of resources, it's difficult to achieve a very tangible research system that can affect, that can have a global effect. So for countries that are lagging behind, far behind Singapore or Malaysia in this region, or even India, now they need to come up with these some solutions which are local solutions that can be used for their benefit. So in order to do that, there's one concept that was suggested by Professor Maheswar, is this Path Lab network, which I found it very interesting. And it's not a very new idea. It has been it's seen in many places, but I think this is very ideal solution for our region, where you have interconnected pathology labs or other center of excellence. They will have clinical diagnostic service and research infrastructure for the population, and they will have a good capacity building uh, focus, which will train lab professional researchers and also help in technology transfer and sustainable skill development. So the role of what is the role of multidisciplinary collaboration? Why is it important? So if you look at the multidisciplinary collaboration in any system, there are multiple stakeholders involved. So number one is laboratory scientists. We have clinicians, of course, who come up with the research questions. You have public health experts with the population level perspective. And then I see the pathologists at the center, being a pathologist myself, come up with the diagnostic and research expertise. There are data scientists, which are now the integral part of any multidisciplinary research team. There are health informatics specialists. And of course, you need people from the community to connect these different stakeholders with the local the target, the people for which this research are done. So all this collaboration between different multiple disciplines will hopefully foster innovation and accelerate research in translational research in our field. So that means we need to have South-South collaboration. We need to have triangular cooperation models like South and with North. And with this, there are some examples of these type of collaborations especially in Africa, where they have come up with this sort of Pan-African uh, institutions, which I think could be a example that we could follow in our region. So, in addition to multidisciplinary collaboration, we need to have multi-country collaboration. So, why do we need multi-country collaboration? That is for exchange of our knowledge, sharing of best practice. We can optimize our resources by avoiding redundancy, and of course, with involvement of multiple countries, multiple research teams, there is scope for expanding and initiating large clinical trials with a diverse population, and that crosses over multiple different types of health systems. You can have fair and equitable partnership between researchers of these LMIC countries, and can help each other in public health capacities. For example, in disease surveillance and response to pandemics that we think can come in any moment. So the other model that is already in place is the pathologist overseas model. I'm not sure if this is familiar to everyone, but this organization is a real organization and has been in operation for almost 30. What they are doing is, this is a network of volunteers. They partner with different corporations, non-profit organizations, and they have three different areas of activities: is development of human resource, capacity building of systems, and maintenance of quality and accrediting labs. And so I think this type of model probably is, although this is based on comprised of mostly pathologists and related healthcare people, I think this sort of model can be probably expanded into or extrapolated into other fields also of healthcare fields. Like, there could be collaboration between data scientists, collaboration between public health specialists forming this sort of collaborating model. So the advantage of having this type of model is that you can have a low cost, high impact structure, because you have a lot of people, expert people coming together to tackle a problem, and with doing that, you're developing leadership within these domains of research activities, and you'll have hopefully there will be leadership in research, uh, pathology research within these countries, and also it helps if you have a digital pathology system in place, which I will briefly mention in my next slide. And the Pathologies Overseas model actually is using the digital pathology technology also to spread out their service into different countries. So there's if you look at this type of model, there will be, of course, some implementation strategy. You will have early phase where you assess your needs, your site selection, stakeholder engagement. Then there's the second phase where you have infrastructure development of labs, equipments, IT systems. You develop your personal research personnel, your quality management systems for capacity building, and then of course network integration. All these, some of these phases can take place in parallel. Some may be sequential. For example, you can start with phase one and continue in the other phases all at the same time as you grow your network. So I was mentioning briefly about telepathology. So this has been very useful in pathology research lately. So this is if you are not familiar with this, just briefly mention, this is the technology that allows pathology diagnosis from remote locations. So it has been used routinely now for pathology, both for diagnostic and researchers. And for diagnostic purpose, we use it for primary reporting. It can be used for second opinion, which is the most commonly used. So some pathologist in, say, in Laos can consult a pathologist in USA, India, or Singapore for a second opinion or expert opinion. And this telepathology can also be a platform for education, for training, and also for mentorship. So how does telepathology help in research? So it enables standardization across trial sites. It offers real-time diagnostic support. There is remote monitoring of records, your audit trails. You can evaluate quality assurance from a remote system. So there is triage and biobanking coordination. So there's a reduction in cost. And of course, most importantly is the training and education for research. Telepathology is a very useful modality. And it helps, especially in pathology practice where you don't have enough board-certified pathologists in LMICs. So it will help in decentralization of trial sites. It will help in collaboration within the LMIC countries and help eventually to strengthen the local systems without fully depending on external help. So if you look at the funding, the sustainability model of research in our region, what is needed? The first thing that it is, of course, investment. Without investment, you can't grow out into a good research. But it doesn't mean that we have to be dependent on initial huge investment. We can start with small funds, like philanthropic funds, foundations, public-private partnerships, and of course, if you have international development funding agencies, then that's very good. You can have fee-for-service diagnostic testing for which using that funding for research activities. If you can involve the government into these models, that would be very good. And of course, there will be the aim will be to have a self-sufficiency plan. So from less depending on external funding, eventually try to uh, get exposure or access to local funding by the local government. So there are various challenges in this clinical research. We've discussed a lot of these, but some of it are quite universal. Like for example, staff retention is one challenging. You train people, then they become experienced and they probably live for a better career. So you need to have a good career development pathways for these people, and also give them some opportunities to work even from a remote area. So you need, so that's one challenge. The other challenge is funding, of course, we mentioned. So we need to aim for uh, self-sufficiency if that's possible. So what are the outcomes and impact of good research activities or clinical research? So some of the things that can be that result from good research is a strong healthcare system. This will be good for the patient care and for disease surveillance. If you have research infrastructure that will expand our research capacity, we will have good number of studies, good quality studies in our region. And nowadays, these people, the researchers from high-income countries, they're looking for patient population, patient data from Asia. So rather than working as a channel or funnel to supply them these people our data, we can, if we are strong enough, we can use our own data and produce good research activities and publications. And of course, with good research, clinical research, we can attain health equity. So people, we can like narrow down the gap for good diagnostic. So people, you can bring down the cost of advanced diagnostics. That will increase the access of the less resource patients. They can help. They can be helped by these advanced testing that are right now very expensive. So we can bring down the cost of testing and treatment through good research activities in our region. So, and for that, you need sustainable and high quality lab services. So you need good pathologists, you need trained healthcare workers, trained laboratory technicians. And these are all part of a good research infrastructure. So now, what this is a domain that has multiple stakeholders. So clinical research, if we think that researchers only can drive this activity, we are mistaken. We actually need help from a lot of sources. For example, we need help from policymakers. So they have to prioritize laboratory systems in their planning. And this is important because quite often, when you look at health planning, healthcare planning, the policymakers tend to ignore the laboratory infrastructure, and this is quite common. And even very recently, I've noticed this. I'm not going to mention the name of the country, but there has been a reform where the healthcare And when I read the report, I saw that there has been no mention of the laboratory infrastructure. So the policymakers have to be very aware of this issue. And of course, this next is the funder. Funders could be government, could be non-government. So we have to have a strong support of funding with a long-term vision. And of course, the researchers, especially the young researchers, they have to engage in collaborative, multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary protocols and knowledge sharing. So that means you have to come together, researchers from different disciplines, from different countries, to form a collaborative group. Okay, and the other stakeholder is the healthcare providers. Now, these are the clinicians and the auxiliary healthcare workers. And they have to be on top of their expertise. They have to be highly trained so that they can also contribute in the research activities. And of course, we need community involvement for advocacy for improved diagnostic services. Without involvement of general public, this whole idea of good research, good healthcare system, it remains, I think, a bit remote for the general public. So they have to be involved in this discussion of good health, the good health research that we are talking about. So this is the vision of one network, which is a network of reliable laboratories in our countries, in LMICs. This will be very useful to strengthen global health. And for this, we need a multidisciplinary, multi-country collaboration that will bridge all these research gaps and build a sustainable health research system. We will need the leadership, equity in funding, and a very robust infrastructure. Without this funding infrastructure, this will be very difficult to sustain. And only if we can collaborate with all the stakeholders, we will be able to create a resilient and equitable health system for all of our countrymen. With that, I think I conclude my talk. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. What a wonderful presentation, such erudite wisdom. Okay, I hope our participant enjoyed all the great wisdom that you had to offer, Dr. Iqbal. So I think, should I call you Javed ji or Dr. Iqbal? I don't know, but I would prefer
Whatever you feel
Javed ji
comfortable.
because
Javed is fine. Javed is also fine.
yeah. Yes, because I feel more closer to heart than calling you Dr. Iqbal. That's very formal.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Okay, so the participants, I'm sure, were blown away by the kind of wisdom, because this is a very visionary concept that when we proposed creating a network of path labs and how we can improve that in LMICs. And I think you have done full justice to this. And I'm very happy with the presentation, the kind of effort you have put in to even pitch the concept so well and train our young researchers here. We have participants from all over the world, literally across different career trajectories. And right now it is live attended by only 164. There were about 190 when you joined. Maybe it is Sunday evening, that's why they are a little happy and relaxed. But we have to be also, but still it's very good participation rate, like still 169 people are attending. I am very happy with it. So I will go quickly into your panel discussion now, Dr. Javed. I hope you're ready. Because I have a set of questions already in front of me for you. Okay, so I'll ask you one after another. We'll have 30 minutes of question answer, wherein I'll ask you questions and you will hopefully answer them very well. And after that, yes, and after that we'll have audience question and answer for about 10 minutes. Yes, okay. So participants, are you ready? Now you're going to start the panel discussion, and Dr. Javed, the eminent expert, after having done his presentation, he will be answering some of the very interesting questions. Okay, you have already answered some of the questions which I am going to ask, but I will still maybe expect you to elaborate that a little bit more. So
Okay.
as a lab scientist and pathologist, originally from Bangladesh, trained in the USA and based in Singapore, how do you navigate your journey as a biomedical sciences researcher? What's your advice to the younger generation of budding scientists?
Okay. So I think my advice to the budding scientists, I think that a lot of it depends on the where where the scientists are coming from. So if you are coming from a I mean the location I mean like the countries that, for example, if you're coming from India, where you have a relatively better healthcare and research system compared to Bangladesh, which is still quite far behind. So you have to look at the issues or the topics or the research fields that are more that are important for in your clinical practice. So you should target and study those problems and see whether there are simple questions that can be that you can ask and that you can try to answer without without much involvement of funds or a huge infrastructure. So that you can start small scale, grows. You can once you start your small project, you interact with other people. You connect with more experienced people, and when you have some problems, you can consult with other more experienced scientists. Reach out to people. So networking is something that's quite important, but you need to identify the questions initially. It doesn't have to be a very specific question, but you need to know the domain that you are interested in. For example, if you want to have a study on diabetes, you don't have to have a very specific question. You need to have some idea what about diabetes, what are the problems the diabetic patients are facing in your locality, and is it something that's solvable easily? And if you think it can be easily approached, then you come up with solutions and test it. So these are the things when you study the problem, you will come across questions that you think will be more focused. So you start from a broad approach. You start your study and narrow down to a defined question. So that's, I think, one way to jump into clinical research.
Okay.
And of course, on the way
Excellent.
you will have interaction with other people. There will be mentors. So of course, mentoring is very important. You need to have good guidance because as young researchers, you may not be experienced enough. But I'm saying that, I've seen very young researchers, coming up with very good questions that even I could not think about. So I think we should also keep that in mind, that young people may have good insight.
Right. I go to the next question. What are the critical gaps in clinical research infrastructure in LMICs today? I think you focused on some of them. I will still ask you to maybe elaborate that more, because you were originally from Bangladesh and you are also doing some local research in Bangladesh now. And how do we address them to contribute to critical health system strengthening?
Well, I think the problems of doing clinical research is different in each country. Like in Bangladesh, the set of problems different from the problems that I face in Singapore. So we have to look at the local context. So in Bangladesh, I find that the uh, I can say about pathology, since I'm a pathologist. So the pathology research in Bangladesh is still the problem is, of course, one issue is funding is one. That's the other problem I find is the I hate to say this, but this is it's a lack of inquisition, lack of interest, of pathologists in general in to ask questions, research questions, because they're not, it could be because of the system, the career tracks and all many things, but they don't have to have what is good interest in research questions. They're more involved in, uh, and I say this with with uh, with regret that there's not much interest from the pathologist per se. Rather, I find that the non-pathologist biomedical scientists are more interested in pathological questions. So I think for them, probably if we have a good interaction or collaboration with the pathologist and non-pathologist biomedical scientists, this is one way of bridging this gap. At least some of the activities can be carried out by the biomedical scientists. And I found some of them quite uh, uh, asking good pathology questions, which should have come from pathologists themselves. But it's coming from a very different cohort of people in Bangladesh. So, for example, for lung cancer diagnostics and lung cancer mutation analysis, this research is not being carried out by pathologists per se. These are being carried out by cancer genetics people, even microbiologists who have expertise in molecular biology. So I think the lack of interest is a serious gap. Funding is of course another gap, and to address this, there has to be very drastic change, and I cannot discuss that here. But I think one way is to encourage the biomedical scientists in Bangladesh. So I think that's one way to get them more involved in, like, bringing them over to the medical science. So that's one way to reach this gap.
Okay, great. I think you just said many important things that any policymaker, if they're listening or they would listen to it in the future, they would find some answers to some of the pressing concerns in their LMICs. So I'll go to the next question. Can an ambitious plan to envision and create a network of diagnostic and research path labs, as you rightly showed, help transform public health systems? And how do you go about it in the case of Bangladesh or in India, let's say?
Okay, so I think creating a network of labs is difficult until and unless you have good quality checks in place, right? So that's the first thing you need to have is have good quality labs. Unfortunately, you mentioned two countries, Bangladesh and India. So I keep I limit myself to these countries. So and especially I talk about Bangladesh. There is no structured quality regulatory body, right, in Bangladesh to audit the labs. There is, I think, there is a body that does that, Standard Institute, but they're not. I think that they're not tailored for accrediting pathology labs. So it's difficult to have quality labs in that kind of scenario. And I'm sure it's slightly better in India, probably much better. But the first thing is you need to have good quality labs. So, and if you have a good quality lab, then you can start networking within the country, across country. So the basic thing is, you need, of course, quality is not something that can be imparted on day one or from the sky. Yes, there has to be realization within the the policymakers that this is critical for a universal healthcare system, for primary healthcare, for all these our social determinants of health. You need a very good laboratory system. So although I mean it's very challenging, I would say that building a lab that has good quality checks is important. The first step is this, and then need to have dedicated pathologists and health and pathology lab uh, technical staff that have vested interest in building a quality lab. So yeah, so I think these are some of the things that you need, and it's of course these are very challenging in a country like Bangladesh to build up a quality lab. And I have a program with a private hospital in Bangladesh. We're trying to build up some. We can't build upscale the entire lab. It's a very challenging job. So we focusing on some aspects of laboratory testing to ensure quality. But I find it that on a daily basis it's quite challenging because you need to have trained healthcare laboratory workers, and for that what I have done is I have sponsored some technicians to come over to Singapore. They were exposed to our histopathology lab. They went back and they are now making changes. So that's another way of imparting quality. You need exposure to between countries. So you train your healthcare workers in a system that's slightly better than yours, so that they can acquire some insights into how to improve their own system. So these are the things that you need to be aware of when you build up a network of labs. Good people and quality, these are quite crucial in building a network.
Definitely, definitely, I agree. So continuing on that conversation, the next question is, what challenges do resource-constrained societies, for example, countries like Bangladesh or DRC Congo in Africa, face while building such system, and what will it take to resolve such issues?
Okay, so I think the challenges of resources is quite widespread in all countries. Even like I'm sure if you go to US, they have some restraints. But of course, the scale of restraint is or constraint is different. So I think for countries with low resource or less resourceful countries, I think the aim should be to I mean, there should be some scaling. Like you need to decide what you want to achieve in the initial phase of your quality improvement. So, for example, I can give you an example based on my own work, histopathology. The basic thing that a histopathologist does on a daily basis is look at H&E slides, hematoxylin and eosin slides, right? So based on that slide, we decide on diagnosis. So I think for a histopathology lab in Bangladesh, they can agree on a very basic quality that we need to produce good quality H&E slides on a daily basis. So that's the first step. So you aim for low hanging fruits, then you go slowly, you progress. So once you have good slides, then you can think of, okay, now we have good H&E slide. Now we want to do immunohistochemistry. So now we want to have basic immunohistochemistry standard, so that we don't have to so what happens is, if you don't have good quality slides or stains, there's a difference in interpretation. And what happens is, nowadays there's quite a lot of connectivity. So cases from one hospital slides goes to another hospital, from one country to another country. and then your whole work is critiqued by another whole different set of people who are looking at your work as a differently. So you need to be careful nowadays that at least have a basic standard for your lab, and that may take time, but I think you need to decide on what you want. So, like for example, for basic research, if you're a researcher, I think if you decide to have the collaboration with pathologists, I'm talking about biomedical scientists. If you want to work on a topic that is of interest to a pathologist, then you need to build a good rapport with the pathologist, right? That's also critical. So, you know, the challenges or the gaps can be filled up to some extent by having a good interaction with the laboratory people. So that's another thing that you need to do. And as I said before, you need to choose low-hanging fruits first to build up your research career. You can't aim for very high quality objectives in the beginning. So you start uh, uh, with how should I say, as I said, low hanging fruits. Then slowly progress as your network grows bigger, your collaboration grows bigger. And you eventually you'll see that even when you complain about funding problem, you're always complaining about funding. But eventually, when you build your network, you'll see that there are some help coming in terms of funding, which you don't actually never expected. So basically you start slowly and proceed.
Definitely. Okay. I think continuing on that the next question comes: how do multidisciplinary and multi-country collaborations can help strengthen evidence generation and evidence synthesis? Please share your experience and wisdom in this term.
So I couldn't hear you last part.
Okay, the question is: how do multidisciplinary and multi-country collaborations can help strengthen evidence generation and evidence synthesis? Please share your experience and wisdom.
Okay, so I give you an example of multi-disciplinary. So we have a collaboration with uh, uh, in breast cancer research. We have a group that comprises of pathologists, oncologists. The oncology means the physicians who treat cancer. We have surgeons, right? And we have data scientists or bioinformaticians. So there's a 4 different group of people for 4 different disciplines coming together. So we're looking at breast cancer, Asia-specific breast cancer. So why is this important? It's important because the incidence of breast cancer, the types of breast cancer, the numbers of breast cancer are very different in Asia when you compare it to North America, for example. And even within Asia, there's also quite different. So now, if you want to treat patients within Asia or say within Singapore, you need to have a good, evidence of the incidence, the types, the prognosis of these different type of breast cancer in your country to tailor your your treatment, your diagnostic testing, and all these. So, so in that way, this is an example of breast cancer. You can apply the same model in other domains also. For example, if you want to look at, say, you are a research in planetary health, right? And you want to look at, say, the effect of heat on patient on population. So you can gather together this same group of these public health scientists, clinicians, data scientists, public policy makers. So this will help you gather evidence, and based on that evidence, you can design your different treatment, your disease control, your policy, and all that. Of course, this is within a country model, but the same model you apply across countries. The same stakeholders can collaborate with other with their own cohorts in other countries. Like a public health specialist in India can collaborate with public health specialists in Bangladesh, right? So I mean, and this can happen within the same cohort. Breast cancer. I come back to breast cancer because that's my favorite area of research. So so you try to collaborate with other people, other domains, people from other domains, and that will help you expand your base also. So that will give you, strength in your research activities, and that has more impact on the public health rather than working in silo. And now
Right.
Working alone is no longer uh, it's not encouraged anymore. It's better to work with people to have a good impact of your research. And if you want to be well known, then of course, that's a better way of than working alone.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, the next question to you, Dr. Javedji. How can AI, artificial intelligence, multi-site global big data integration, and digital health intervention be leveraged in path lab networks?
Okay, so yeah, this is a bit difficult question because AI, the use of AI in public health, in digital health, it has been applied, it's being used, but in routinely AI, to my knowledge, is not being used widely in in the healthcare system, especially in research yet. In of course in data science, when you study genomics, there is a role of AI. But in pathology, the role of AI is still I wouldn't. I mean, of course, digital pathology, of which telepathology is a very integral part, that has more used on a daily basis. But AI uh, has not been utilized uh, 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 so much. But we are seeing some use of AI in pathology research. For example, I can give you a very specific example. Um, Uh, we are, breast cancer patients, a specific group of breast cancer patients who are treated with this drug called herceptin. Right? They have special protein highly expressed called HER2. So when you score it on H&E slides or immuno slides, if you add AI to that, it improves the scoring system. So it helps the pathologist to come up with a more accurate scoring of HER2 protein expression. So that's important because nowadays, there is a drug for very low HER2 expression. So like, in the past, we had patients who were treated for high HER2 expression, they were given Herceptin. Now there are patients who have very low HER2, they also have drugs. Now the problem is, how low can you go to score your slide? So AI has come in very handy in this case. They can help you uh, in measuring the staining very accurately. So this is one application that is now quite useful in pathology, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's very widely applied because the problem with AI is it's quite expensive. You can't expect LMIC to have infrastructure and funding of AI in not only the equipment, so also they don't have expertise, like human expertise. That's another critical angle that's missing. So I don't think AI at this point will be very very intensively used in public health, but of course, with the accumulation of a lot of data by researchers, I think when you have to analyze millions of data points, then of course you need AI. For example, I don't know if you saw this news recently in UK. The whole data in the NHS, their national health system, about 57 million, I think, patient data points were analyzed using AI. So that is a huge task and achievement. But very few countries will have the resources to do that sort of analysis using AI. But I think, having said that, I think still digital technology will be more useful in public health improvement. But eventually AI will come in at some point, because
Definitely.
these countries will at some point, like India. India has a very big pool of expert people that deal with AI on a daily basis. So, and but India definitely will come up with applications of AI in public health systems. But the other countries probably will come up, but much later. But for now, digital technology will be very helpful.
Okay, great. Okay, so I go quickly to the next question. I'm actually combining two questions
Sure.
that I've set for you as one. Right. So how can global partners like Singapore support locally led clinical research in different LMICs for building the clinical excellence and without creating any dependency?
Okay, so countries like Singapore in this region has come a bit late into this global health domain, much later than the North American or the European countries. But it has invested quite a lot in global health now. So with that funding now, Singapore is being collaborating with a lot of LMIC in this region, starting from Vietnam. Just recently, UK and US Global Health Institute opened a collaborating center in Vietnam. So they have similar programs in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan. So what happens is how it works is it works actually both ways. So the clinicians in Singapore, those who are interested in this sort of collaborating work, because not everyone has the interest and energy to do this. So people who are interested in global health projects, they will. These people are, if you look at their background, they have already have exposure to these countries in a very early age, like in early, not really age, but in early in their career. So they know at least some of the burning problems of this region. So they can. So it's easier for them to collaborate or to find out the interested or involve people in the counterparts. For example, if I know that there's a group in Singapore, breast cancer specialists, who are collaborating with another group in Bangladesh. They're looking at uh, the behavior of breast cancer patients after treatment. How the treatment affects their daily life, their social life, their livelihood, things like this. So this is one way of connecting people. The other way is, uh, I would say exchange programs between countries is also very helpful. So if people from say Bangladesh who go to Singapore for training, so they come, they encounter issues that they have seen in Bangladesh, but they never thought to approach it in a as a researcher. So providing this insight into the budding people researchers is also quite critical. I know people who have come from Bangladesh for a specific area training in a specific field. They interact with so many people. Come up with ideas that are totally different from what they came for. So I think this interaction between countries is also critical.
Yeah, okay. Then that brings me to the next question, which is what long-term vision do you have for the South Asian countries like India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Pakistan, etc. in clinical research leadership, and how can LMIC young researchers position themselves strongly in the clinical research ecosystem globally?
Okay, so I think for to build up a network of LMICs, the I have an idea. I, I haven't. I mean, I bring up in casual conversation. It's like building up you have CDC in Africa, right? There's the Center for Disease Control. Of course, there's one in the USA, but no, we don't have anything like that in this part of the world. So I think an organization, or at least a skeleton of an organization, that has this similar model or ideal like CDC, you can that will can be a framework for collaboration between countries. You need a skeleton or need a framework to start a collaboration. So then it has to be some sort of structure. I mean, I don't know how to build this structure. It could be difficult, uh,
Right. Maybe we can
but
design that together. Maybe we can discuss that.
yeah, exactly. This is I think because you need because the SARC. I'm sure you're familiar with SARC. So the SARC system is a very. I feel that it's a very good system to if you ignore the political issues. This is a very good framework to establish a South-South or LMIC collaboration framework in this.
SARC used to be extremely active a few years ago during the previous regime, but
Yeah,
in the new regime in India right now it's not very active
yeah. So
due to several geopolitical factors. Obviously,
so
it's
if
not
you
national.
somehow you can remove the political issues from SARC and give it a different name,
Yes,
not keep it don't call it SARC, call it something else. I think that might be something useful, and we can do this by ourselves. We don't have to depend on the political leadership to start a network, right? So I think this is one way to
true, true.
initiate a collaboration. But of course, the other thing that's needed is mentorship. You need role models, good mentors, good role models to guide young clinicians, or young researchers. And
Definitely.
I don't claim myself to be a good role model or mentor, but I would be very happy to
You are too
uh,
humble to say that.
no, I mean, I know, anyway, so, I'd be very happy to advise or give advice to people if anybody approaches me. And I think you need, the mentor doesn't have to be from your own field. It can be from any field. It can be even your friend, your someone relative, your colleague who knows you quite well and can help you in answering questions. But it would be, of course, if you have a mentor within your field, that will that mentor will help you guide you through your research fields, increase your network, enhance your visibility, things like this. So I think mentoring is one very good important factor, and then of course networking is good. And for this type of collaboration, I think you and me, we can start the framework with a different name, of course.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so we come to the end, but there is one last question from me.
Sure.
What would be your parting advice to the emerging public health scholars with a keen interest in lab science or biomedical lab science?
Okay, so for that's actually quite important question that you asked, and I don't know whether I have a very good answer to that, but I think the best way to start is to have uh, uh, you know these networking meetings, between public health specialists and biomedical scientists, because the thing is, these two expert groups are not are a bit detached from each other. Lab people who are in the lab, they think that public health people are totally on their own, and public health people think they're working in a silo in their own lab with test tubes and pipettes. So you need to bring these two groups together and share ideas in a platform like this. You invite both groups, you have speakers from both groups, and then you come up with a common problem, common question, and then you uh, set up a small network to address the issue. That will give, I think, start the process, and it can be done in in different localities, different organizations, different countries. So I think that's one way of having more of this sort of meetings, but more like interactive.
Right, definitely. Okay, so thank you, Professor Javed Iqbal, for such an illuminating, erudite talk. I think we had a wonderful talk, and then followed by this very engaging and very illuminating panel discussion. I'm very sure the participants have enjoyed it so far, and there are like a rain of questions coming for you. So I will pick up a few questions and I will ask you. But before that, a few important announcements. So admin, now the announcement comes for your attendance. Those who have been attending the session very actively so far, you will get your attendance. So attendance fill up is not sufficient. So it's not like you come at the end and just fill up the form and go away. Okay. So we are monitoring Zoom. We are using Zoom Premium. It's monitoring your attendance. Okay. So please be mindful of it. So please fill up your attendance form. It has been now dropped in chat. Okay, and it will be only open for 15 minutes, and after that we'll close it. If you do not fill the attendance form, then you will not be eligible to get the attendance for today. So the Global Advanced Certification Program participants will have to fill the Global Advanced Certification Program GACP, and those who are attending for the workshop series, international workshop series, please fill up attendance series. If you fill for the other series, then you will not be qualified, and do not blame us later that you are a Global Advanced Certification participant and you fail for the workshop series, because attendance is given only one time. Okay, so if you fail for the workshop series, then you will get a certificate, but you will not get your advanced certificate. So you have to choose what you really want to get. Okay, so if you are a Global Advanced Certification Program participant, please make it ensure that you fill up, you tick that Global Advanced Certification Program, because every attendance is counted and you have to attend 70% of the overall panel. That means 7 out of 9. Okay, in order to complete your Global Advanced Certification Program, and you will be awarded a Global Advanced Certification Program certificate at the end of the program in July. Okay, so I am making it immensely clear. I hope there is no doubt about it. If you have any doubt about it, please resolve it on your own, because all of us are adults here. Okay, nobody is a child. So I think that takes care of it. I have made the important announcement. Now I'll go around reading some of the very important questions. So yes, so we have lots of questions for you, Dr. Javed. So Dr. Portia is asking, my question remains on how evidence through the laboratory HMIS research moved the policymakers to action. Zimbabwe suffered a massive cholera epidemic in 2008 and 10 and was greatly associated by a very experienced multidisciplinary team from ICDDR, Bangladesh. There were a publication and firm recommendation but we continue to report cholera. Dr. Javed, yeah, you may answer.
So, so the question is, I'm not sure about what the question
It
asking.
is like why is cholera still continuing? Basically, she is concerned that so much work was done. Why is still continuing? That's her concern.
That's a very good question. You know, but it's difficult because the reason that cholera is it's still rampant. It's very. I think it's country specific. You know, you can't really answer that question based on individual country incidents and management. For example, dengue. Dengue is in Singapore. They're spraying mosquito anti-mosquitoes repellents everywhere, but still you have dengue. Yeah, it's quite common here. And in Bangladesh, it's of course you can expect that in Bangladesh because there's not so much control pesticide use or mosquito control repellents. So it's quite high in Bangladesh. But countries like Singapore still has a lot of dengue. So it's difficult to answer that question why it's still rampant cholera in some countries. But you have to look at this sort of public health issues are dependent on I think almost proportionate to the public health system. The state of pathology practice in that country. So these are like very reflective of the healthcare system. So if you have a healthcare system that's not well developed or still have a lot of problems, you will have these pestering, lingering issues. If you look at US now, measles, this measles incidence of measles has gone up, but that's very unexpected in a highly developed country like US. But there are reasons, there's a lapse in the public health system. So wherever you have lapses in your public health surveillance system, public health, sanitation, there are a lot of issues that contribute towards cholera. So you need to keep those things in mind. And that is a very good research question also, that in spite of all this surveillance and all this treatment, management of ORS and all this, how come you still have cholera? So, whoever is asking the question, I think let's look at that as a research question.
Definitely, it is an important implementation science
Yes.
of the problem. That's something if people can do several PhDs
Yes,
on
exactly,
that problem itself.
So
not
yeah,
one.
that'll be good for both of us.
Yes, definitely. Okay, going back to Jusu Musa from Sierra Leone, he's asking, thank you so much, Doc. Can you please answer these two questions? How can LMIC institutions ensure that telepathology systems are locally owned and sustained after the initial setup by external partners or donors? And what role can district-level health authorities or ministries of health play in scaling up telepathology for both research and diagnostic services in rural LMIC settings?
Okay, so the issue of telepathology is, of course, it's not so easy modality in terms of funding. You have to have good funding for that, and even before that, your hospital administrators, uh, they should they should they should be mentally professionally invested in this source, right? So you have to make them understand that what is the importance of telepathology on a daily function or daily practice of a pathologist. So once they're convinced, then it's easy to build up a telepathology system. And nowadays there are a lot of telepathology no, we call it scanner, from low end to high end scanner. Some are cheap, some are expensive. So it depends on your objective, your use, daily use. So if you're using for just primary diagnosis, then you look for some sort of scanner. If you're looking for second opinions, that you're transmitting scanner images every day to remote areas, uh, distant countries, then of course you need good scanners, you need good infrastructure, electricity. For example, there's a scanner digital scanner in a hospital in Bangladesh. That uh, hospital, the pathology laboratory, the department at some point had electrics. I don't know how this happened, but the supply was till 3 p.m. So the digital scanner was active until 3 p.m. So from 3 p.m. onwards till the next day, 8 or 9 a.m., this scanner was not used at all. So these are so that means the resource was underutilized. So these are some of the factors that you need to consider before you invest in a telepathology. So how much use it will have, whether you have expert people no, you don't need much expert, but at least people who are proficient in handling digital system. So you need to have this sort of understanding before you go into telepathology or digital pathology infrastructure.
Okay. Okay. Then the next question comes from Yusha. She's from Bangladesh. She says, "You are a great inspiration, Dr. Javed Iqbal sir. In Bangladesh, we still face difficulty to do a clinical research. How can we overcome the challenges regarding materials in our region and other facilities, means lack of resource, and how do we cope up with it if we want to do any clinical research?"
Okay, so that's a very pertinent question. So I can give you an example of how you can do what I have done actually. So in one of my visits to one of the medical schools in Dhaka, there were some pathologists who were doing very basic research. Like for example, there was one pathologist who was looking at expression of a particular protein in breast cancer. Okay, so and she was using it for her thesis, right? So she had a thesis based on very small work that she had done. So what she did was she approached me and she said, "Can we, build this further?" So what I did was I took her work and added some genetic data, molecular data. Of course, this is from published database, but that has not been looked at by other people. So we added her data and to this uh, published database, and we have come up with the manuscript uh, that looks at the expression of this protein in breast cancer. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you don't have much resource, you do whatever you can with the material, because if you belong to a pathology lab, you have access to material. But having said that, I know that in some pathology departments in Bangladesh, they don't have a functioning histopathology lab, so they may not have material. But
Right.
if you have that has material, then try to do whatever you can. Then you reach out to other people and who have access to better resources than you have, and combinedly you can do something. You can expand your work. You can do some better work. So if you have something in specific in mind, you can reach out to me. I will try to help. But I think if you don't want to, if you want to keep it within your own country or domain, then you approach people or experts that uh, the different better resource
Yeah, okay. So the next question to you, Dr. Iqbal, is from Nosin Subha. She says, "Hello sir, my question to Javed sir is, what kind of skill sets would you recommend to early career researchers in public health?"
Okay, I think this answer for any researcher, I would say, is you need to have passion, a deep interest. So that's the first thing. Now, if you are doing research for publications only, or you are doing research as a tool for your career progression, of course, if you do good research, that will help you in career progression. But I think it's good to have some sort of deep interest in the topic that you want to deal with. So if you want to have a career in public health, I think you need to have a good interest and good knowledge of the burning issues in public health domain in your uh, you know in your own setting. So that's the first thing. So you need to have to have passion, need to have good knowledge of the problems, and once you know the problems, I think then you can of course you have to spend some time. You have to study a little bit, find out which are the problems that you think are uh, striking, which are more approachable, uh, they're more easy solution. Because if you choose a problem that you can't solve easily, then you may have one or two research papers, but it won't do much. It won't take you much further ahead in your research. So yeah, so and also if you are in public health, you need to have some statistical expertise. That's very important, which I don't have. But I think for a public health researcher, you need to have that. And with, with the advancement of, you need to have some knowledge about digital health, AI, uh, at least some working knowledge, even if you don't apply it routinely, but you need to have this uh, expertise.
Okay, definitely. So the next question is very similar, coming from two people, Kaji Sarmad Kareem and Munmun Farjana Tahir. They both ask, how can public health researchers influence policy in the global south with more evidence-based solution, and how can research findings contribute to policy? How the young researchers contribute in this field, as country like Bangladesh, it is assumed that it is the matter of the only experienced people who can contribute in this arena.
Well, I think this is a very important question, but I think the answer is very easy. I mean, easy to say, not easy to execute. No, use if you want evidence-based solutions, then of course you have to identify the problem. That's one thing. You have to, you know, do research about that problem. But there are multiple aspects of it, of any issue. There is, like for example, you know, if you want to choose diabetes problem, uh, there are different aspects of diabetes that you can research on. Like for example, what are the causes of diabetes, the environmental effects of environmental causes of diabetes, the effects of diabetes uh, on the patient, the long-term effects of diabetes. So there's all the different aspects. So you need to choose. You can't deal with everything at once. You need to choose what you want to focus on, and then study. You need, and of course you need networking. You need to as a beginner, you need to get yourself attached to a bit, more experienced public health researcher who is working in that field. And eventually, it will take time, but you'll get some publications which will lead to evidence. And the other thing about about policy making is a bit difficult for public health researchers unless you are yourself involved in public policy. So I think for public health researchers, you need to get involved in public policy also to have an impact of your own research. Otherwise, what happens is you just do a research, you keep publishing, but there is no impact in healthcare. So you at least you need to have expertise in public policy, or you need to have public policy experts in your research team who can at least contribute in that aspect.
Okay, great. The last question for you comes from Rasmika Inampuri. Sir, I'm doing studies on E-star rats on diabetes. I need to do histopathology studies on pancreas and blood parameters like blood glucose and insulin sensitivity. How it will help me to interpret the data and correlate to my study?
That is a bit difficult question. Without knowing the your research question, it's difficult for me to answer the question that you're asking. So, if you're working on diabetes, of course, pathology of pancreas is important. And actually, I don't know what your actual research area is, but if you have access to blood and tissue of mice, then pancreatic tissue of mice, then it depends on your aim. And if you want to contact me specifically for this project, I think that would be much better than giving you a non-specific or generic answer. So I think if you have my email, please contact, and I'll be very happy
provide them.
to.
Yeah, we'll provide them all the details. No problem.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I will end the question answer with the last question because there are so many questions coming up. I cannot all accommodate that. So Anurika Unamadu Ikpiamarom, sorry, it's a very difficult name. Please, sir, what do I need to learn more to become a grounded researcher in public health? And what is the intersection between academic research and public health research and implementation science? I know you are not a public health specialist, but still, I would request to answer this.
Okay, so I think part of this has been probably already answered. Like I think there was a question earlier about the requirements of a public health researcher. So, as Professor Maheswar has said, I'm not really a public health researcher, but I can give you some comments as a researcher. So, the most important thing is to, I always tell young researchers, you need to have passion. You need to know your stuff. You need to know what you're doing. So this is the very basic thing that you need to do. You need to have. And and if you are going into public health just because public health is easy to enter, I think then you'll get stuck at some point. So you need to have some broad goal before entering public health research. So that's important thing. And so about the last question about implementation science. So I think if you want to have an intersection between public health and implementation science, then of course you need to choose topics that are that have the solutions have more impact on the society. So, and easy to, how should I say, implement the changes that you suggest that can be implemented, can be easily adopted. So, and have more impact on the patient. So it's better to choose something that has more impact on the population. I think in short, that's what I would.
No. I think you have answered most of the questions which are very relevant, and there are so many other questions which they are keeping on asking, and I don't think I should take more time of yours. Maybe what I can do is I can compile all of them in one file and send it to you.
Sure.
And maybe that will be a good time. Yeah, both you and as well as Dr. Aziz, both of them can answer questions. In person,
Sure.
and we can communicate to them later on. Not an issue. Okay, so that's all. I think Dr. Javed, that despite being unwell, which many participants have also appreciated in the questions and charts, that despite being so unwell, you have come today on a Sunday evening, that was quite late evening in Singapore, and you came and talked to us. You offered and poured all your wisdom and almost 30, 40 years of experience, globally. I think our participants have been blown away by the experience that you have shared with them, and that is shown by the kind of questions, the richness of the questions they are putting. They are very curious. They are willing to learn, and they want to connect with you, and that shows up. So I'm very happy with the kind of interaction we had. The presentation, I think we had a terrific panel. So thank you for that. So I'm indebted to you for coming on board. And this Global Advanced Certification Program has been running for the past 1 month. Today it completes its first month. Our participants come from 100 plus countries, and they're getting trained thoroughly. And we have more than 14 tutors, including me 15. So obviously we are trying our very best on a daily basis. We are training them in research processes. They are getting mentored. We have received more than 250 proposals, and they are of excellent quality. Some of the proposals we could not accommodate because they are not of good quality. And then out of 900 people, 250 people are continuing with us in terms of research projects actively right now. So once they complete the advanced certification program, these are papers that we are planning to publish in top journals of repute, Q1 journals and Q2 maximum. That's the level that we are targeting right now. And we have excellent mentors, and we are also counting on you as one of the mentors. And as a part of our tradition, what we do is we have 2 certifications, credentials offered to the participants of the Global Advanced Certification Program. First is the Certificate of Completion stating Global Advanced Certification Program on strategic research collaboration and communication for young emerging researchers. And the second statement or second document that is offered to the participants is called Statement of Higher Education Achievement. This is a very state-of-the-art, one-of-the-kind document that is offered to our training participants, and this is offered in the line of UK and Australian higher education statements. This statement will have signature of all the resource persons who came on board and taught to our participants. So it will also bear your signature. So our admin team will be soon reaching out to you, getting your e-signature on the certificate, on the statement of higher education statement. So kindly oblige. We will really appreciate that.
Sure.
In addition, I would like to inform you that we cannot offer you anything physical because we are not funded by anyone. We are completely doing everything for free. Even the entire program is offered for free to our participants. Therefore, we are offering a small token. As a small token, we are offering an appreciation certificate, which will be offered to you as an e-certificate to you by the admin team very soon. And that is the only thing we can offer at this moment, but we request that you kindly mentor us and support us in the process as we build the global consortium of global health, and also this advanced certification program as it starts progressing is doing very well so far, and we are very proud of our participants' activity level, participation, contribution, and the ingenuity of ideas and the research projects, and the amount of effort they are putting into it, and the level of commitment they have shown so far. So with that, I would pass the mic to Mr. Faisal, the admin, to do the news, and we come to a close after this.
Before I go,
If you want to say a few things, please.
yeah, I think this your initiative is amazing. It's mind blowing actually. That's such a huge global outreach that and I was surprised to see the question on Sierra Leone. I was very
We are humble. We are humble, Dr. Javed.
yeah.
Your humility. We are just making a humble effort to give back to our communities, to our society. Because we owe something to our society. That's why we are doing it all altruistically. Nobody has funded us, and we're running this program, Global Advanced Certification Program, completely for free, and it's an intensive, exhaustive process. We are spending more than 8 to 10 hours per day, literally, and the whole team of tutors.
Manage all this. The issue.
It's very.
Your days are in how many hours?
Every day from evening I'm like busy. The
No,
whole
I know,
evening
but
we are
I
busy.
know usually I have 24 hours in my day, so I don't know how many hours you have.
I think we are just trying. So you will not believe. Day before yesterday, I slept for 7 hours in 1 month,
Really?
and I was just sleep. Yeah, I was just sleeping 2 hours, 3 hours per day. That's the kind of because it's been exhausting and draining. The whole process of planning, designing,
But I think you
delivering.
need to, you can't carry on like this. You need to have delegate more
Uh,
of your.
Yes, but we are a very small team, sir, and we are just trying our very best what to do, Javelji. So, but I'm sure with your support and everyone's support, we'll be very successful in completing this program very successfully and effectively. And I just hope and pray that our young participants here, those who are here, they are listening to us, they will commit and they will continue to work harder with us so that we can produce the very best outcomes for our LMICs, the middle income countries, because this is just a humble effort to strengthen our healthcare system as well as our young emerging researchers who are emerging, and we want to support them, handhold them, provide the right kind of mentorship so that they grow up to be the leaders of the future, the next generation of the future,
Of course.
next generation
Obviously.
leaders. That's the goal. So hopefully, yeah, with your resourcefulness and your mentorship and others, we'll be able to make this goal a real in coming days. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for actually inviting me. It was
It's my pleasure.
very good,
Absolutely my pleasure.
very nice experience for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Hazel, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Javed Iqbal sir and Professor Satpathy sir, for such an inspiring and practical discussion on an important topic for emerging researchers, like low resource settings. So this brings us to the conclusion of session 4 of our Global
Session
Consortium,
5.
Global Certification Program and International Workshop Series. We hope the ideas shared today inspire you to seek meaningful partnerships, expand your research frontiers, and continue shaping a more equitable, collaborative future in public health. Let's keep learning, collaborating, and transforming global health together. Until next time, take care and good night. And thank you, sir, for coming.
Good night. Bye. Bye, Mahesh.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Javed. I'll be in touch with you personally over WhatsApp
Sure,
email.
sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Have a great night. Take care.
You too.